Some people like to believe that they know God's will is to always keep us healing, to keep our bodies full and fit.
Right.
And I've just been contemplating and thinking about that a lot because the people I'm around talk about that.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Isn't it too bad that Jesus didn't have enough faith? Because, man, that dude suffered one of the most painful deaths possible. He obviously didn't have enough faith. That's why he suffered the way he did. That's why he was rejected the way he was. That's why he didn't have enough money to buy off Pontius Pilate and escape the cross. If you're going to follow a human being, a person, who claims to be God in human form, and he goes through the rejection and the suffering that Christ went through, and then you're going to turn around and say, well, if I have enough faith, I'm not going to be poor and I'm not going to have health problems. I don't know what you're smoking, man, but you're so out of touch with reality, it's scary. I'll tell you what that is. That's a human-based, selfish gospel. That's what that is. That's what the health, wealth gospel is. If you have enough faith, you won't get sick, and you will not get poor. Ah, baloney. The vast majority of followers of Christ who live in Africa, South America, and Asia fall far below the level of income that we have in the West. And that doesn't mean that they have lack of faith. It means they're born into an unfair, messed up world. Stuart, what do you think?
Teachers will be judged more harshly. Out of James, right? That's a pretty intense verse that you need to take seriously. And so a pastor who raises money, $54 million for a jet, I think is in a lot of danger. Because what you're doing is you're preying off of oftentimes a lot of the poor. And what you're doing is you are taking money from people and promising blessings, and you don't have that kind of power to promise a blessing over somebody's life. If I tell you right here and now, you guys listen to our message, and life is going to go great for you. Not only just positive psychology for you, but we're going to bless you. And if you have a demon, we'll hit you on the little forehead and make you fall down, and then maybe you'll back to life, and you'll be fully blessed in every kind of way. Okay, we don't have that power. And every single person who claims to have that power, I am tremendously skeptical of, and I hope you are as well. So we see this preying on the poor, preying on those who are suffering all the time in order to fill their pockets.
They say, like, it is God's will heal, God's will to, for you to prosper and such. And, to extent, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
But they, like you said, they abuse it.
Sure. Everybody wants this place to look more like heaven will be. And we are supposed to. See, everybody thinks heaven is just totally different dimension, which is true, but it's a totally different dimension in the sense of we are going to be somehow picked up by the angels and taken, transported to this other realm. No, that's not the case at all. This isn't Dune or something like that. What's going to happen is the earth will be redeemed and created anew right here, and we will have relationships. So yes, blessings, making each other grow in character, all of that is important and good.
Hello?
And you don't want to be somebody like the pillar saints who would sit on top of poles sticking up their butts for days at a time in order to deny themselves and definitely not accept any type of blessing in order to somehow get closer to God. So no, prosperity gospel and self-flagellation to get closer to God, neither of those are true. Jesus Christ did come to heal. All of his miracles were for a purpose. See, that's the difference between Christ's miracles and, say, Egyptian miracles back then. Egyptian miracles and other civilizations who were claiming miracles,
Wow.
they were magic tricks, typically. Jesus' miracles were to bless, to heal, to change people. And they weren't supernatural.
Yes, I would like
You
many
always saw
viewers.
miracles, they're so supernatural. No, they're restoring nature to what it's supposed to be. So they're very natural. You see, that's the whole deal over it.
I want many viewers.
I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to live out a type of my calling to be poor in every way, just give everything away, and I have a family, and they're going to starve to death or live a horrible type of life. No, I don't think Christ calls you to that. And I definitely don't think he calls you to a type of prosperity gospel. So understanding, yes, we will have blessings, we follow Christ, but you will suffer greatly
Blessings
as well.
on blessings on blessings.
Christ suffered, Paul suffered. Job suffered, David suffered. The list goes on. And just about all the eyewitnesses eventually went to their death through martyrdom in some pretty painful kinds of ways. So understanding the balance, we can grow through suffering. There is prosperity oftentimes, but for the majority of people, real prosperity is not going to come until heaven comes to earth.
Why would, in your worldview, God basically, it almost seems like sent or give
Why
people
not
different
peace, though?
opportunities
Why don't
to
you
get to
preach
heaven
the
or hell?
peace?
Yeah, and how that coincide with free will when it seems like in general so many people tend to just follow the religion into which they were born.
So just because my parents told me that Jesus is the truth doesn't mean that he's not the truth, right? So becoming an adult means you have to think for yourself. And the majority of my atheist friends grew up in Christian homes, okay? So just because you grew up in a home that taught something doesn't mean you have to follow it. You have a free will, you're responsible. Is God going to judge me differently from a guy who was born in Papua New Guinea and never heard about Christ? You bet. God is going to judge us according to what we had as opportunities. God is not going to judge us based on our ignorance. So because God is all-knowing, he's in a position to judge each one of us uniquely, fairly, and justly.
Say someone follows a different religion that they were taught and that they believe to be true.
Yeah.
You think God will judge them in a way like I'm not, if they were exposed to Christianity, you would say they would go to hell. But what if they believe just as much as you that their religion is true?
Good.
Or what if an atheist believes that
You bet.
they're right?
This pink elephant, you know, the one right here? This pink elephant gives my life meaning, purpose, and direction. This pink elephant is awesome.
I'd say your pink elephant was the same thing as you saying that God exists. So like,
Good.
how come you get to decide that your God is the correct God?
Okay, I don't decide that my God is the correct God. The question is the evidence supporting the pink elephant who's right here?
No.
Thank you. No. Does the evidence support some type of a God existing?
No.
No?
Say no one can actually know if God. I'm agnostic because I don't believe anyone could actually know that God exists.
I think it's impossible to live an agnostic life because you have to make ethical decisions every day, and the ethical decisions you make tattle what you really believe. You have to make a decision every day. Are people valuable or are they trash? The decision you make shows what you really believe about reality. You have to make a decision every day. That guy in that casket or in that urn, is there life after death or not? You have no decision, you have no option. You have to decide. Do you see, sir, the decisions that you make tattle what you really believe. So please don't tell me you're agnostic.
I like not that doesn't show that I'm saying that I believe that no one can believe that no one can truly know if their God is correct or not. Like I don't believe that you can truly be 100% sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure that I'm not a bad dream you're having right now.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so we agree on that.
Yeah.
I can't prove anything 100%.
Correct.
But guess what? As a thinking human being, I don't base my life on proof. I base my life on evidence. The evidence is that his face starts right there. That's why my fist stops here. Not because I can prove to you 100% that he's right here. Maybe my eyesight's lying to me.
But they're like, yeah, that's true, but we tend to just go off the presupposition that senses like work. But
no, I don't go off a presupposition that my senses work. I experience this.
That's a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm not presupposing that my senses tell me the truth. I'm experiencing this. And I know very well that if I smack him, there's going to be contact. Why? Because the evidence of my experience tells me that's true. Because I've been hit and didn't feel good. So the evidence is that, yes, my senses perceive reality. That's why I trust my senses.
Well, but that's a circular position. So you trust your senses
Because my experience, my senses, putting me in touch with reality. That's why I trust my senses.
So you have no presuppositions, like.
Yes, I have presuppositions, but I can promise you, as a thinking person, I'm going to question those presuppositions, and I'm going to ask why. Why have I embraced those presuppositions? And the reason that I have embraced the presupposition that my senses perceive reality is because I experience contact, touch, and I talk with him and we find out yes. Now, why do you trust your reason?
Reason is a presupposition. Like, there is nothing to base it off of, but we act as if it exists. Same thing with your senses. When you're saying that you touch him and you believe that you're touching him, in general, science would say that you could theoretically put your hand, and one in like hundreds of billions of times it would go through him. That's the thing that's said in such. Do you disagree with that?
I sure do.
So you disagree? So you disagree with science?
Yeah, walk through the tree. Please,
Well,
go right ahead. Walk through the tree.
It's unlikely because the particles are moving, but in
Yeah,
general,
the particles are moving, and your particles are moving. So why can't you walk through the tree?
Well, theoretically, you can.
Theoretically. Baloney. I can't base my life on theoretical.
Crazy doesn't mean that in science it can't theoretically happen. I know it sounds crazy, but
Thank you. It sure does sound crazy.
in science that does happen.
Oh, no, it does not happen. I have never watched a man or a woman walk through a tree.
I've never watched someone be resurrected.
Good. But guess what? You do know that existence is real, that life is real. And so now you've got to ask yourself the question, is it more reasonable to believe that life comes from non-life, that existence is produced by non-existence, or is it more reasonable to believe that life comes from life and that existence comes from a creator? What's more plausible? Not what you can prove. I know you can't prove anything, neither can I. But what is more plausible? What is more reasonable in light of the evidence? That's what you got to ask. And don't give me this garbage that, oh no, science has to prove something in order for me to believe it. Science has nothing to say about love. It has nothing to say about meaning in life. It has nothing to say about life after death. Nothing. Because science deals with what you can observe, what you can quantify. And you can't observe and quantify love, meaning, and whether there's life after death or not. It's far more reasonable to believe that morals come not from matter, but that morals come from a personal being who defines what's right and wrong. It's far more reasonable to believe that life comes from life. It is not reasonable for any of you guys to believe life comes from non-life. Oh, that's a miracle, guys. The only problem is you guys don't have a miracle worker. There's no God for you. No, don't hold on. Think accurately. Life does not come from non-life. Never. Can you show me life coming from non-life? And yet you guys believe in a miracle. Life comes from non-life at the inception.
We believe in low probability things.
Oh, baloney. Low probability did not make him.
Yes, it did.
No, it did not.
Actually, that's 100% what happened.
No. He has a mom and a dad. He has a mom and a dad. He doesn't have low probability made you, buddy. Aren't you lucky, a sucker?
This is like the craziest argument ever.
I think you are a little bit crazy. I think you are.
Think about this. Genetics.
Genetics?
Yeah. What is the probability of his exact genetic code happening? 100%?
Sir, you're making a classic mistake of the observation of different sperm and different eggs. Gosh, what's the probability? That doesn't create anything. That's a statistical fact, okay? But that doesn't create him. What creates him is a mom and a dad, two living beings creating him. You don't get life from a statistic. And by the way, you don't win the lottery because of a statistic. You win the lottery by buying a ticket. And that's my whole point. Science is a wonderful description of reality. But I can promise you, science doesn't create. Science describes creation. It describes life. Bravo. But you can't say science made this guy. No, science didn't make him.
So God made humans, right?
Yeah, God made humans.
Why did he give them leukemia, though?
He didn't. Human beings rebelled against God. We went over this already in Genesis chapter 3. When we rebelled against God, that's where things got messed up.
I mean, I didn't rebel against God.
Oh, yes, you have.
Okay, so what's your...
So have I, by the way. I've rebelled against God also.
Sure, so all those little toddlers who get leukemia, because they do, and that's very sad. They deserved it?
No, they didn't deserve it, but they are born into an unfair world, a messed up world.
Yes, but that is an evil explicitly created by God.
No, it is not.
That is not.
It is a free decision to rebel against God. And when people make that free decision
to rebel against God, which is why he got leukemia.
No, false. The guy gets leukemia because he's born into an unfair, broken, messed up world. That's the world I was born into. It's the world all of you were born into.
So wait, remind me. The world is messed up and broken, which is why the kid gets leukemia. What made the world messed up and broken again?
Human beings rebelled against God.
But human
Like
beings
Eden,
weren't-
or are we talking like in general? Us right now.
We're talking about our forefathers and foremothers, and me and you. We've all rebelled against God,
Okay,
and that
but
leads
you
to
believe in
destructiveness.
determinism.
No, I don't
No,
believe.
but this is-
You have to believe in determinism.
I do.
Good, bravo, well done.
Thanks. Yeah.
Good.
I believe in
Smack.
that viewpoint.
Smack. Did you hit her, Cliff? Because I had to. It was
Well,
determined
no,
that I hit her.
It's not I had to.
Oh, yes, it is if you believe in determinism.
It's not I had to, it happened.
Oh, happened.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
baloney.
What do you mean baloney?
Determinism means it has been determined that I hit her.
Yes, correct. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, and my point is, if I hit her, turn to you and you ask me, why'd you hit her? And I say, because I had to. It was determined. You know I'm lying through my teeth, I hope.
well,
That's not at all.
That's not what
determinism
yeah,
to
yeah.
the extent that
Determinism means it has been determined. Determinism means I don't have a choice. It's been determined. Let's be honest with our language, guys.
I'm being honest.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I said I believe in determinism. If you hit her, it wasn't. There's nothing of you that makes it your fault. There is no your fault.
Good.
It's just inputs and outputs.
Good.
How you're genetic. I
Yeah.
fully believe in determinism. I'm not lying.
But you can't live it out.
Yes, I can.
If
Every
I
word
smack
that's coming
her,
out of my mouth,
Are you going to
I
hold
think
that me
it's
responsible for smacking her or not?
What do you mean?
Are you going to say,
There
Cliff,
is no
it
you.
was wrong? There's good. I like you.
Yes,
Very good. There's no
consistent, I
you.
know it's-
And I would insist you are wrong, and it's proven by you how you live your life.
No.
Hey, this woman says I love you, and you say, I understand you have to love me. You don't live that way, man. And if I smack her, you're not going to say, oh, Cliff, you had to smack her. And if I'm racist, you're not going to say,
Well, you
oh,
say
Cliff,
the
I
word-
understand. You have to be racist.
No, the worst mischaracterization. It's inputs and outputs that create racist people. That's the way to characterize.
Oh, I see.
Yes. the
So
fact-
all
the
my
way they
white
were brought up-
racist friends have input and output,
Yes.
and they just have to do what they're
No,
determined to
not
do.
have to do it. It just comes to.
Oh, come on now. Determinism means
is what it
there's
means.
no you. You do what you're programmed to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
You're
So
doing
be
what you're
consistent.
supposed to do.
And I'm standing here saying, my white racist friends, I got to look them in the face and say, you're wrong, and you better change your behavior.
And maybe that will be an input that changes their behavior. And that input comes, and you saying that comes from things that happen to you. And things that happen to you come from other inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Determinism.
Well, I don't agree with you because I don't
you
think.
disagree.
Exactly.
It's okay.
I don't think that my behavior is determined by my bad potty training from my mom and dad. I insist.
One of your inputs.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
My behavior is a result of my free choice.
Okay. Quick question.
I disagree.
Wait.
Don't interrupt. We're with him, and we'll get to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm building off of his.
No, forget it. He's talking. Go ahead.
I completely disagree. I think every word that's coming out of my mouth, all
Yes.
this vocabulary, like
Right.
everything I know,
Right.
comes from inputs and outputs. All of my beliefs come from inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
I disagree with you because of inputs and outputs. If I was in your situation and I grew up like you, I had the exact same genetics, I would be standing there like you, and you would be standing here like me.
Okay.
Inputs and outputs.
So yes, determinism possibly is right. But if a dude, all right, come here, you dude with a beard. Let me hear a second. All right. So this guy comes around a corner with a stack of books under his arm. I haul back, smack him as hard as I can. I'm hauled into a court of law. I stand before a judge, and the judge says, hey, Cliff, why on earth did you go up and smack this guy as hard as you can? I say, it's very simple, Your Honor. I grew up with an abusive father. And my abusive father had a little balding, gray hair like this. And whenever he would abuse me, he would take a big book and slam me over the head. And this dude just so reminded me of my abusive father that I had to haul back and hit him.
Yeah.
The judge will say, Cliff, I'm really sorry that you had that kind of abusive father.
Yes.
But you are still responsible for hauling back and punching him. The legal system in the United States, I am glad, is based not on determinism, it is based on the free will that we all have, which means we are responsible for what we do.
I don't think that, I think that in general, people who were abused, do you agree, tend to abuse more in the future. Do you disagree with that?
I don't think a person who's been abused has to be an
They don't-
abuser.
They don't have to because there are other inputs and outputs. But if someone is abused, it seems like in general they tend to abuse more.
Does
Do you disagree
anybody
with that?
love you? Well, then if you hope so, it means you value love, right?
Well, yeah, but I would disagree with what love is when you say it.
And I respect your intellectual consistency. I respect it highly. You're living it out. And I think it's scary.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it means that I am not responsible for what I do. What I do has been determined.
I don't like make it political, but like things that, for example, structural racism, like stuff that has happened in the past leads
Yeah.
to things in the future.
Right.
This is where these ideas come from.
Yeah.
Things that happen in the past affect what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Right? And if you all the inputs and outputs of the world that happened in the past,
Yeah.
that is why we are where we are today and what is happening the way it is today.
Okay.
That's the idea.
I disagree.
Okay, yeah.
Why? I respect Harriet Tubman. I respect Gandhi. I respect Mother Teresa. Well, why, Cliff? Why do you respect those people? Because obviously they didn't have to do what they did. Instead, they chose to contradict their culture. They chose to contradict their upbringing. And they chose to fight the caste system, to fight slavery at the cost of their lives. That's why I respect them. I don't respect them because they had to do what they did. And I don't excuse a racist because you grew up in a racist environment, and so therefore you have to hate people of different ethnic heritages. Baloney. You don't have to hate anybody. You choose to hate, you choose to love. You choose to forgive, or you choose to stick it to a person who's hurt you. That's my experience of reality, guys. Now, if your experience is different, so be it. But I think you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me. You know very well
100%.
that you respect Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln. Why? Because they contradicted their culture. They contradicted their environment. They followed their conscience instead of following the status quo. Now, if you don't respect those people for that reason, fine.
You respect the things they
Tell me why you respect them. Well, I don't respect them, Cliff. Well, there would be another disagreement that you and I would have.
I don't think they exist anymore, for example.
All right.
The people who are dead.
All right. I feel like paying you for standing out here and going at it with me. I cannot thank you enough. And I really respect your intellectual consistency. I am sick and tired of talking to atheists who say, oh no, they're moral objective truths. Baloney, you know they're not. I'm not. If there is no God, it's all a pile of chemicals, and we're just living out our chemical reactions.
Correct.
Correct. Except when you go home tonight, you can't treat your roommate that way, and you can't treat the woman you're dating that way unless you want to blow up your relationship fairly fast.
What do you mean? When I go home and I do the things I do, it's because of inputs and outputs. When I treat someone well, it's because I've been taught to treat people well.
No.
Yes.
It's because you make a decision about how to handle those inputs and those outputs.
Well, your chemical structure
Yeah.
makes a decision.
The point, I agree with you, there are chemical reactions in the brain. We agree. My point is, there is still a you that makes a decision how you're going to treat your chemical inputs and
Of
outputs.
the chemical structures. You
Yeah.
believe there's something that, but you would agree, we can't point to that thing, and we can't.
That's
there's nothing
right,
to
it's
point to.
not material.
But it's nothing. There is
No, it is very real.
Not material. There's lots of this.
Oh, yes, there is.
No, there.
Your brain, I can physically dissect your head and touch your brain and analyze it. Your thoughts, I don't have any access physically to your thoughts.
Well, wait. Yes, you.
No, I
What do
don't.
You do.
I cannot take your thoughts and
wait,
put them in a
that's
test tube. I can take your brain and put it in a test tube, but I
yeah,
cannot
but-
take your thoughts.
But you can connect things to my brain and see what I'm thinking.
No, I cannot
That's
see your
fine.
motives.
Not,
I cannot see your
oh,
motives.
you're changing it now, though. But you what someone is thinking about. You can know if someone, for example, let's say someone connects something to your brain. They can see and puts up a thing, and they're like, "Do you agree with this?" They can tell if your brain agrees with it or not.
I make a decision. In other words, not the chemicals made a decision.
Make that decision.
A lot of different issues.
A lot of
Environment, will, free will, love, forgiveness.
Okay.
Some of them are very tangible, like genetics, like my environment, and others of them are intangible, like love, forgiveness, compassion, empathy. That's why I do it. Pardon?
What made you feel those things?
I can change my mind. You can change your
You
mind.
can change your mind, but you
Yep.
have to will your mind. Where did that will come from?
It came from my soul, from me,
Okay.
from my
And where did
rational
that-
mind,
and where
my
did that come
conscience, my emotions. That comes from God.
Yeah,
That comes
Those
from
are
God.
God-given gifts.
So
But if there is no God, those gifts do not exist. They're no part. It's not. My will is part of my soul, an intangible soul that I have because God made me a body, yes, chemicals, yes, but also a soul, intangible consciousness.
okay, for the sake of contradiction, let's assume there's a soul, right? This soul willed something, right? It wills you to want to consume alcohol. It wills you to want to go outside. It wills you to study your calculus homework. Some part of you wills it, and then that happens. Some part of your soul, some part of whatever intangible sense,
Thank you.
it has been willed, right?
Thank you.
You do what you will, yeah. And if you want to change that will, part of you needs to will that, right?
Part of you.
Soul, in sense,
All
I'm
right,
not
the
going to
free
get into
will
the
that we
syntactical
have
problem here.
chooses to do that.
Yeah. So
I'm on YouTube
if you choose to do that, you chose to do that because of something else, right?
Please.
Like if I wanted to stop consuming alcohol, I had to want to not consume alcohol.
I chose to think through the consequences of
What
alcoholism.
made you want to will through the consequences?
What made what?
What made you want to look through the consequences of consuming alcohol?
Because I got some buddies who are alcoholics.
Okay, so
I saw how they destroyed themselves through their alcoholism, and I decided I don't want to go down that path. And I got other buddies who crammed too much fat into their bodies and their arteries are clogged. And I decided I'd like to see my grandchildren get married. So I'm not going to put cholesterol into my body.
so what you're saying is that it's something outside of you.
And what I'm saying is I made an observation of reality,
Okay.
and based on my observation of reality, I made some decisions.
How can you say that you have free will if your will originated from something outside of yourself?
Because we've gone over this, and you're not listening. I
think
told
you're
you
not.
flat out, your will is a gift from God. I didn't create my will, you don't create your will. We're born with it. We're born with a conscience, we're born with a rational mind, we're born with a will. Those are gifts that God has given every single one of us.
Okay.
Now the question is, how are you going to use those gifts?
It seems like if you're able to sort of like answer all these questions by referring to God or his activities, the atheist might be just as well suited to say, hey, I'm just going to say a God particle or matter and energy is some fundamental part of the universe. It doesn't seem like there's that much difference in the way that the mystery is handled if they were to do something like that. And it doesn't seem like there's much reason. It just doesn't seem like fair to say that the atheist accepts all these mysteries. And I think atheists have actually perfectly good answers for a lot of the questions you just asked.
Okay,
I mean,
so something came from nothing. How does an atheist get around that one?
well, that's the thing. They don't believe that there was nothing.
What does that mean?
So there was always matter and energy.
Yeah, but
It's
science has
certainly-
blown that out of the water. Science has completely blown that out of the water. Einstein himself even started it, and you need a great beginner to have started everything. That has a beginning.
How did time begin to act on existing matter? That's what the question
Yeah,
becomes.
so you need something outside of space and time to create space and time.
There are plenty of atheist physicists who have perfectly good explanations.
Yeah, that's a pretty good cop-out. That is the ultimate cop-out I've heard today so far.
Steve Green, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they seem to have decent explanations for it.
Bro, you can't come out here and start debating and just start reeling off names and not even explaining what they truly are positing.
Saying God explains it. I mean, why? Like I'm saying, Neil deGrasse.
I'm saying that immaterial things like consciousness, love, beauty, free will, a soul, self, you need an immaterial source. It's fine, don't call it God. Call it the immaterial monkey sitting on your right shoulder. Whatever you want to call it, it has to be an immaterial source versus the atheist who is a physicalist, a naturalist, saying that there has to be matter and energy that created these things. That's why, here, I'll go ahead and, I don't mean to offend you or sound prideful, but I'll go ahead and take maybe one of these great men you're talking about, Richard Dawkins, who said last week, for example, he said, it makes me really uncomfortable when you talk about free will, because free will is an illusion, because I'm an atheist. And so free will is just this natural byproduct from evolution that doesn't really exist. So you scratching your beard right now, you're not doing a free will movement right now. You were determined to do that by your biology and by your chemicals. You see the radical difference? See, what you're positing out here is just totally fallacious. You can't just say, oh God, and oh atheism, and Neil deGrasse Tyson explains it, and you're just saying it's cop out with God. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is the immaterial is the explanation in creating the immaterial, but if you're just a naturalist and atheist, then you have to explain the immaterial from your physical material standpoint. And so please be consistent, like Richard Dawkins, the most famous atheist today, who says it's just an illusion. We don't have free will because it's immaterial. And I'm an atheist, and I can't say that free will exists because it's immaterial, because I'm a materialist, because I'm an atheist.
Plenty of atheists who are who are compatibilists who think that free will is consistent with determinism.
And how do you explain that one? I know some of them, but how do you explain that thing? Work that out for me.
Well, you could think that, I mean, look, I could give you some Frankfurt cases where people have no choice and yet acted freely. Is that what you want? I mean, like,
how do you work out compatibilism? Help me.
So suppose, you know, a neuroscientist implants a chip in my brain and tells me, and that chip requires that I pull a trigger. And so I feel like murdering my wife for some reason, and I'm actually about to go. The neuroscientist is going to make sure that I pull the trigger because he's got the chip in my brain. I go up to my wife, I pull the trigger. The neuroscientist never has to activate the chip. I could not have done otherwise, but I acted freely. So there you have it. Free action without the ability to have done otherwise.
Good, so that's Sam Harris.
So that's a compatibilist argument.
Good, that's Sam Harris. So you truly believe that? You truly believe that? Or you're just saying, because I heard you say this is just some other atheist, because I don't know if you truly believe that?
No, well, Harry Frankfurt thought of the case.
Yeah, what do you? I don't care about Harry at all.
Yeah.
What do you believe?
I do. Yeah, I do think that that free action is compatible with actions being determined.
All right. So this is a very dangerous type of thinking. What did Sammy say last year, based off of this type of thinking? Sammy said the Cheshire shootings that happened 40 minutes from my house when two men came out of prison who were supposedly abused in prison and as children. Came out of prison, they followed a woman home in a Mercedes-Benz, and they raped her, tied the girls up, her daughters up, raped them. Then her husband came home, and they hit him in the head with a baseball bat. He was unconscious, ended up surviving. They lit the house on fire, burned to the ground, the house did, and the three women died that way. What did Sammy Harris say? Sam Harris, as a compatibilist, said that, oh yes, they had a level of free will, but they were also determined. It was a mix. And so we should really not hold them that accountable because you could call it a chip or whatever you like. Sam Harris is saying the neurochemicals, but specifically how they were abused early on in life, that's the reason why they did what they did to these poor women, how they raped them and burned the house to the ground. All right, I have a problem with that. As a Christian, do I believe that neurochemicals, things like abuse, come into play when it comes into my free will? Yes, but I always believe at the end of the day, you have a free will. It's not an illusion. It is God-given, who God, the creator of the entire universe, has this free will that not only does he have, but he created, and as free, autonomous agents, we can decide whether to do real evil or real good. But if you do real evil, you will be held accountable for it. I'm going to train my three girls in such a way where there actually are consequences for their good or bad behavior. If I'm a determinist, an atheist, your typical atheist, I'm going to say, well, no, there's no ultimate consequences for my three sweet girls because they're determined by either poor parenting that I've given them or their own neurochemicals. That does not line up in my understanding of reality.
I think I'm a follower of Christ. I think he lived and died in a way that is redemptive for all humanity.
You think he rose from the dead?
Yeah, for sure.
You think he's God in human form?
Yeah.
Wow. When did you put your faith in him?
Probably when I was like 6 or 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So mom and dad were key?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Same here. And what do you teach?
I teach
Philosophy. Great. That's awesome. You got a great place as a philosophy professor to do that. Do you have the opportunity to influence people for Christ, or are you not allowed to do that, or what?
my job is to teach people how to reason.
Good.
And I don't hide my beliefs from people, but it's not like I'm gonna rub them in their face when when my main duty is
Right.
to teach people how to reason well.
You got to do your job.
That's right.
And that's not to be an evangelist. You're a philosophy professor.
Right.
Russell Cowburn, professor of experimental physics at Cambridge University, says, you can't work in science and not be struck by the amazingness of the universe. A good day in the lab is a cause for worship because you come out of it seeing God's creation just a little bit more clearly than when the day started.
I don't blame atheists for feeling differently about their work in labs. It seems like one could do the same kind of work and with the same kind of passion at the end of the day. Just
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm very sympathetic to atheists. I think, atheists actually in many cases have very good reasons for what they believe. And,
Okay, good. So what's the best reason to be an atheist?
well, I mean, I do find fine-tuning arguments to be kind of compelling, and like the kinds of arguments of, hey, there's all these contingently existing things, there must be some explanation for why all these contingent things continue to exist, and but I'm it's not obvious to me that that thing has to be a person. It's even sometimes kind of strange to me to suppose that at the core of reality,
Yeah.
the most fundamental thing
Yeah.
is a person. That's not always crystal clear and obvious to me. So I sympathize with atheists when I think about things in that way.
Then what is a better option to the thinking that because we experience love, there indeed is a personal creator at the heart of reality? What's a better option than that?
Hey, I mean, that is a tempting option. There is
All right,
a
thanks, bro.
surprising degree of love and goodness in the world, and sure, that does seem to count in favor of the idea that there's a person at the core that's guiding the show. And also, there seems to be an improbable amount of evil, and not just the kind of evil that grows us, but the kind of evil that breaks us, and the kind of evil that has nothing to do with humans, like the kind like having a deer in the wilderness suffer and die horrendously in a wildfire. That doesn't really produce any great souls. It doesn't sort of like make someone better, and yet it's an evil that exists, and so there is a great variety of evil in the world, and not all of it seems to do the work that a kind of free will theodicy would help us. So free will theodicy being one where people's freedom is the reason why God allows bad things to happen. Seems
Right.
like plenty of bad things happen that have nothing to do with people's free choice.
Now, when someone says the best argument against God is the existence of evil, my immediate reaction is, what are you getting so honked off over evil for? Because, I mean, if there is no God, there's no evil, there's no good, it just is. And if you want to attach a descriptive word, evil, or a descriptive word, good, that's a bias, that's a prejudice, it's a taste, right? Or wrong? What do you think?
There's a whole discipline of secular ethics and metaethics that's dedicated to sort of trying to explain why there might be things like good and evil, moral goods and moral evils, even if God doesn't exist. And if you think about it, like the classic, what's called the Euthyphro dilemma, seems to, even if you think God is good,
Yeah.
if God decreed murder on Tuesdays, hey, it's like murder Tuesday or torture Tuesdays. No one would think that was the right thing to do just because God decreed it. So, like the goodness of God and there's a dilemma there, right?
No.
God, what's good isn't good just because God decrees it, because otherwise He could decree torture Tuesdays.
No.
I mean,
Why not? Because He's eternal. Because there's no beginning to God. That's why the whole theoretical issue, well, if tomorrow God says murder's good, then that makes murder good? No. Because God is eternal, no beginning, no end. His character is consistent. It's good. And so murder's never good.
Torture on Tuesdays is fine, or torture every seventh day is fine. Would that have been good?
No. So if God switches and says torture's good, He's not good.
So why couldn't He have defined it in a different way, so that torture is okay?
He could have, but then He's not good. Then He's an ogre. And it's possible. Maybe God is an ogre.
Right, so then how would you know that He was not good in the case that He decides that torture every seventh day is okay?
By studying His character, which is consistently good, by studying the fact that he's eternal, no beginning, no end, by studying the fact that he never has pulled that kind of trick off. He's not interested in pulling that trick off. And then when you begin to see God revealed in the person of Jesus Christ, you begin to see a guy who taught an incredibly high ethical standard, and then he consistently lived up to that standard. That's why I respect him so much. That's why I put my faith in him, part of why. Because not only did he talk about a high ethical standard, he lived up to it. That demands my respect. Does that make any sense?
Not really. It seems to dodge the question, because it seems like you're just saying, I ask, how do you know that God, wouldn't, from eternity decree that torture is okay every seventh day? You say, because he's good and you know him to be good.
No, I'm saying it's a totally theoretical question.
Sure.
Totally theoretical.
Sure it is. And we need it to figure out how the concepts of God and goodness relate to each other, right?
If Hitler had never murdered Jews, he murdered a bunch of Jews. So I'm not going to sit around here asking and deliberating too long on, well, if Adolf Hitler would not have slaughtered Jews in Dachau, Auschwitz, and Buchenwald, wouldn't he have been a great guy? The fact is, he slaughtered Jews. Now, how long do you want me to really consider, well, if he hadn't have slaughtered Jews, would he have been a good guy? My dad was a Swiss Boy Scout. My dad was walking through the Alps one day.
He would have been a lot less bad of a person had he not slaughtered Jews. That seems obvious.
Yeah, but the fact is he did slaughter them. So I'm not going to sit here having a theoretical discussion about if Hitler had not slaughtered Jews. Because in reality, he did.
So it seems like for the same reason we can rule out God being good if he had decreed that
If
torture
he
is
had.
okay on
Yeah, well, guess what?
because we have an independent conception of
If
good.
Jesus had murdered people, I would not believe in him. If Jesus would have been a racist, I would not believe in him. But in reality, historically, he was not a racist. Now, how long do you want me to philosophically consider, well, if Jesus would have been a racist, would you follow him? That's an easy answer. No, I wouldn't. Because my conscience convicts me racism is wrong. Yeah, I've got to be more practical. I've got to deal with reality.
Can we go back to a quick point? I'm reading everything on you that is anti-evangelism. Everything I'm reading on you is atheists got a lot of great points, and we agree. Atheists have some good points, but I certainly hope that you don't hate your philosophy students enough to not try and convince them that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Because Penn and Teller said, hey, look, if I was a Christian, I would certainly hope I would share that there is eternal life out there through Jesus Christ with every single person I possibly could get to. Because if I didn't, I would be saying, I really hate you. So I love your neutrality and the little bit of political correctness oozing out of the pores. But I hope you also understand that there are many religious professors that we're going to counter who are proselytizing way louder than any type of Christian philosophy professor and saying Christianity is a joke. Or they'll take the liberal approach and say, Jesus Christ, he taught something, he was a good moral teacher. But it's the historical Jesus route. It's definitely not Jesus who actually supernaturally resurrected from the dead. So I just plead with you, and I'm wondering, where do you stand on that?
I love psychology and cognitive science, and one thing I know about the cognitive science and psychology of persuasion is that people are actually far more persuaded when when you take their views very seriously, and you admit when you're uncertain about something.
Beautifully put.
I think you can be way more compelling, and so
I agree.
I'm just standing in the fact that, hey, I actually see some very intelligent atheists who have really good reasons for their beliefs, and I don't think I'm losing anything by that. I think the atheists sitting around here, they're going to want to talk to me more because I take them seriously. I think the things that they believe are valuable. As to why I wouldn't try to convince every student to become a Christian, I mean, I think, suppose I'm a chiropractor and or better yet, a physical therapist who's done 9 years of my life trying to work on people's bodies and make their biomechanics better, and that's my main goal in life. Should I just walk up to somebody and just adjust them? I think it's gonna work out way better if they're coming to me.
If you have the cure for cancer, though, I certainly hope you'd go to them and share that cure rather than, oh, you come to me eventually, and if you ask the right questions, no, hopefully you will go to that person and share with them that there's such a thing as radiation and chemo.
Sure, but what does that translate to?
It's real simple what it translates to. If you're OBGYN, if you're a breast cancer doctor, and you're sitting across a dinner table from a woman who's highly uneducated, doesn't have the faintest idea of the importance of having a mammogram, you begin to realize there are some signs that this woman might have breast cancer. And if you just sit there and don't say anything, how can you argue that you really care about the woman that you really love? It doesn't mean you're going to jam anything down her throat. It doesn't mean you're going to grab her and force her to have a mammogram. But it means you're going to try and articulately, intelligently, humbly, not, I guarantee that you have breast cancer, or I guarantee that if you do have breast cancer, a mammogram is going to help fix it all. We don't know that, obviously. So you're right, there's uncertainty. But we also have a degree of certainty that you should have a mammogram, and you quite possibly have breast cancer, and we can help you, especially if we catch it at an early stage. And I hope that you'll do that. Isn't that not the compassionate thing to do?
For sure. If I'm a doctor, that person's in my office because they came to me with a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I've advertised myself as a person who has solutions to certain kinds of problems. You know, like, I'm not against saying, hey, letting my students know that I'm a Christian.
Good.
Or that, but like, I'm not in class going to tell them all the reasons why they should believe in that Jesus is the Messiah.
It's not what you're hired to do.
So I just think if they're interested and they have a problem and they're coming to me, then fair game.
You bet.
But, you know, like, I'm not gonna...
All right, there's a tremendous amount of mystery, okay? I can't explain the Trinity. I can't explain how sovereignty of God and free will come together. Tremendous amount of unanswered questions, and I better be honest. And if I come off like I got all the answers to all the difficult questions, I'm an arrogant twit. But I've got to be honest. Jesus Christ has changed my life. I've got to be honest. As I think through these issues, the evidence is Jesus Christ is reliable. Now, I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Armin Nicola. He taught the favorite course when he was there at Harvard University. He taught at Harvard Med School. He was a psychiatrist. The course he taught at Harvard was a comparison between Sigmund Freud and C.S. Lewis. He was brilliant, he was humble, and the Harvard students loved him. He probably taught the most popular course when he was there at Harvard. He was devoted to Christ. No, he wasn't like me. He didn't go out here and speak this way. But he was brilliant. He had a deep faith in Christ. Check out his course. I mean, it was an amazing course on Sigmund Freud and C.S. Lewis. And he never said, oh, it's a no-brainer, you're dumb if you don't believe. But he kept on pointing people to the thoughtfulness, the evidence that God exists, that Christ is the truth. He kept on pointing people to the logical ramifications of Sigmund Freud's atheism and to the theism and Christian faith of C.S. Lewis. You could do the same thing, couldn't you?
And my point was not on how you share your faith. People share their faith differently out here. You know, St. Francis of Assisi talked about preach the word, use words when necessary, because it's all about how you act out your life.
Yeah.
Well, okay, great, beautiful. What I was saying more so to you is, don't you understand, if you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that he actually rose from the grave, and that he's making exclusive truth claims on how to get to heaven, I hope you realize and understand that people's eternal destiny is on the line. So when you're in teaching your philosophy class, let's not be so open-minded that our brains fall out. Let's instead say, no, we're going to have to bite down on something. We can't just be pure agnostics and say, oh, that's great, you're a free thinker, and I'm a free thinker, and we'll sing Kumbaya together because we're all free thinkers. Instead, it's a matter of, no, you're going to have to bite down on something eventually. Now, is there truth, and what is that truth becomes the question.
Concerning when you end up diving down into Scripture and realizing that, like, there are these passages that say, just as through all men, just as through Adam all men died, so through Jesus all men will be made alive. There's no qualifier there. It's pretty clear from that and many other passages, all will be saved. And I think, like, philosophical side of this, the moral side of this, I would have to believe God to be a moral monster if I thought he was going to condemn anybody to hell eternally for any finite amount of wrongdoing. And so I think, it would be, I mean, I think there is a hell, but I think it's more like a place of quarantine, a place where people go temporarily, and maybe we could save people a lot of suffering by sort of guiding them to the light. But
so you don't believe there's a hell, right?
You can't make them drink.
There's no hell, is there?
There is, yeah.
Why is there a hell? Doesn't that make God a moral monster, as you said?
Well, I just don't think people are there for eternity. I think it's more like purgatory.
Okay, why do you think that?
Well, because I think it's impossible for a good God to condemn anybody to eternal suffering for any reason at all, really. I just don't think that. I don't think like that makes any sense.
Okay, what about annihilationism? That God annihilates those who choose to live their life separate from Him? Does that make more sense to you?
Sure, it makes more sense, but I just find universalist passages of Scripture to be very compelling.
But you read in context, obviously.
Yes, it says, all men through Adam have died, so all men through Jesus will be made alive. That doesn't seem consistent with annihilationism to me.
Okay, so we all literally died because of Adam and Eve.
All will be raised, will not be fallen, or that fallenness will be reversed.
Not all humankind, all who put their faith in Christ. Paul makes that abundantly clear throughout Romans,
There's no
1st and 2nd Corinthians.
Do you know Paul never mentions hell in any of his letters? Did you know
He
that?
talks about judgment very clearly.
Well, he talks about judgment.
Yeah.
You could have judgment without an eternal hell.
He talks about the destruction that God will bring about after judgment. Very clearly. He talks about eternal life. He talks about eternal death. He talks about judgment. He talks about the destruction of wickedness and people who sin against God. I mean, come on. He makes it abundantly clear.
I don't know.
You don't know? Hades, Tartarus, Sheol. Come on. Hades, Tartarus. It's pretty clear. It's hell.
Well, I mean, so Hades borrowing from Greek, like the words that Jesus uses when he talks about, like when he's thought to be talking about hell, actually refer to a very, like a physical place,
Right.
Megiddo.
It was prepared for the devil and his angels,
Right.
not physical.
Yeah. Yeah. If you actually look with just unbiased eyes, try to figure out what would like a 1st or 2nd century Christian have taken from this, I'm not sure that you should conclude that they believed that there was a hell or that hell was eternal.
What should you
In fact,
conclude?
some church historians think that most Christians in the 3rd century were actually universalists of exactly this kind.
Come on, sir.
And there are church fathers like
Some people think I'm a bad dream you're having.
Gregory of Nyssa was a universalist.
Some people think. What do you think and why do you think it? What do you think? Why do you think it?
I told
do
you
you
what I
think
think.
there's going to
I
be a
told you
hell?
what I think.
No. You keep on saying, there's a good book out here. There's another view out there. What do you think and why?
I mean, I'm not a New Testament scholar, so I this is not my area of expertise. But anyway,
So what?
I mean,
I'm not a scholar either.
that all shall be saved, and I think it on the basis of universalist passages like the one in Romans that I quoted.
Why in the first 300 years were all these Christians giving up property, reputation, and their very lives if they were universalists? All are going to be saved anyway. Were they just idiots? Masochists?
No,
Everybody's going to get saved? So why were they doing that then?
they believed that they were following in their master's footsteps.
Then why Larry Hurtado out of Marquette University said historically Christians were going into homes that they were being invited into, and you were supposed to go into a home in the Roman Empire and worship the gods of that home. It was called being respectful to the homeowner. They were going in and saying, sorry, I cannot do that. There is one way to God, not endless amounts of way where all people are going to be saved. So basically, you're just rejecting all of what was done in the first 300 years after Jesus' resurrection. I mean, when we were standing in the Roman Colosseum thinking about how 360,000 Christians went to their death in the most brutal kind of way imaginable within a period of 100 years, I mean, isn't that cheapening their lives to the worst degree imaginable? It's just saying, well, they would have been saved anyway. They just all got it wrong.
Said that there is a hell. It's going to be a place of a lot of suffering because, because of the people who are going to be there. Not because God hates them, but because, I think kind of people that are going to be there are people who have rejected God.
But if you look at those texts that you're pointing to, that in Adam we all die and in Christ we all will live, he's not talking about universalism. He's not saying that everyone's going to go to heaven. That is a total twisting of what Paul is saying. It's not fair to the text. If you try and argue that Paul and Jesus weren't warning that there's eternal destruction out there for those who do evil and walk away from God, come on.
Can't say there's 100 papers in my office and all of them were F's and you say, well, I mean, there's no, what I've said is that they're all F's. I can't say, no, some of them are A's. So Paul doesn't restrict the quantifier at all.
Yes, he does restrict it. And I understand. I don't want anybody to go to hell. I want nobody to go to hell. That's why I'm standing out here. So emotionally, we connect. We understand each other, okay? The thought of hell disturbs me deeply. I don't want anybody to go to hell. Neither do you. But guess what? I've never been to heaven. I've never been to hell. I can't give you an eyewitness account. I trust Jesus Christ, the Bible, to reveal that there is a heaven, that there is a hell. You take Christ and the Bible out of the picture, I'm up a creek without a paddle when it comes to explaining why I think there's life after death, why I think there's a hell. It's an issue of, has God revealed this? And that's what Christ claimed, and that's what Paul claimed.
It's hard for me to imagine, or it's impossible. In fact, it's impossible for me to imagine a good God condemning people to hell, to an eternity of suffering.
Yeah, and I'm standing here saying God is good, and people will spend eternity separate from Him. That'll be hell.
So what about that?
So what does that make me?
What
It makes me either stupid or emotionally stunted.
I mean, you could make that inference. I'm not encouraging you to make it.
Well, what are you saying then?
I'm saying we disagree about what goodness is, and that, you know, like, it's not clear to me that, I mean, I think we do have a very fundamentally different notion of goodness. If you think goodness, a good God, is consistent with eternal suffering, like causing people to suffer eternally.
I still think you're emotionally biased, as he said, and I understand, because I'm emotionally biased also. I'm not saying you're weird. I'm emotionally biased. And so then the question for me, because I don't like hell, I've talked to you about it. I don't like the thought of her, him, or whoever going to hell. All right? I don't like that. I hate that. And that's why I'm mesmerized by the cross of Christ, where he claims to bleed and die to pay the hell that I deserve.
I'm sharing this story
and I'm saying,
because
whoa,
this person is
that's
very heavy
incredible.
on my heart.
Putting your faith in him is very, he's barricading our path to
I
hell.
would like to ask
Gosh, don't look a
fellow
gift horse in the
believers
face and say
to
get
join
lost.
me in praying
right?
for this man's soul.
All right, well, thank
the
you so much for
intent of this
talking.
video is
Greatly
not
appreciate
to bash this person or to put them in a negative light, but it is simply to ask the church, the body of Christ, to pray.
What they're saying is actually true.
Atheists are making a truth claim. Gnostics are making a truth claim.
I don't know about atheists making a truth claim.
Stop just long enough to take this photo. And this was very, very early in the ministry. I still had not put stuff in gift bags yet at this time. I don't know what I was thinking. But when I handed him the Bible, he just looked at me and said, "That's really stupid. You're trying to give an atheist the Bible." And that was that. And that was a turning point in the ministry. That really made me stop and go, you know what? I should be better about meeting people where they're at. That's part of the reason why I do the research into these individuals before I meet them, so that I can properly address and approach questions or beliefs that they have. So that changed everything. When I met him in 2019, his daughter was with him, who is a very, very sweet young lady. And she got him to stop and look at what I had brought him. At first, he was going to dismiss me. And then he realized what it was. He remembered the previous encounter 3 years prior, and he said, "Thank you for taking the time to meet me where I'm at and actually listening to what I said to you." So I felt like that encounter went well. And then through the years, I've had several other opportunities. December 2021, April 2022, and December 2023. So over the past 6 years, the conversations have been very good. They've been encouraging. I was remembered by both he and his manager. Chevy would tell me, "Thank you for loving and caring about me." And it appeared that his heart was softening. And I had an opportunity to see him again in August of this year up in Chicago. And after much praying, Morgan and I decided that it was time to get him a Bible again. So we got him this Bible with his name embossed on the cover. And at the beginning of this video, you know I said that in 2016, he said, "You're trying to give an atheist a Bible. That's stupid." A lot can change in almost a decade. People's hearts can soften. I've seen people's hearts soften in my own personal life. I'm sure you've probably seen the same thing. You may be somebody whose heart softened yourself. And I was hoping that this would be a vessel to have a deeper gospel conversation with Chevy. When I stepped into the booth where Chevy was, he immediately remembered me and said, "Man, you get uglier every time I see you," which is, of course, just Chevy's humor. And talked with he and his manager. They were very cordial. Chevy was sharing some stories about Saturday Night Live. And I told him, I said, "Well, Chevy, you know that I really love and care about you." And he said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "So my wife and I, we got you this." Again, giving somebody the Bible a lot of times is the turning point of the conversation. And he looked at it and he said, "What is this? A Bible?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he just looked at it for a moment and he said, "Wow, what a waste of money." And my heart sank. It's still very difficult to talk about. Not just because somebody rejected the gospel, but I'm like, wow, I really saw this going a different path after conversations through the past 9 years. And his manager was very cordial, trying to save the conversation, but sadly, there was no redeeming it at that point. And Chevy was kind to stop, and he said, I could have said that nicer. I appreciate that you love me and you care about me and you've gotten me so much stuff through the years. And I have looked at it, but I've made my decision. I don't care about him. I don't care about this. It's not me. And it never will be me. So please don't waste your time and money on me anymore. And in that moment, it was just very difficult to try to figure out, how do I still reflect Christ in this and use this opportunity as essentially a last, I don't want to say beg, but a last appeal of Christ. And I said, Mr. Chase, I can't promise this is the last time you'll ever see me. I appreciate you being honest. I would rather somebody be completely honest with me than to be fake with me. And I will never give you anything ever again. But I can promise you that I'm going to continue to pray for you, and I am going to get thousands of others praying for you. And he said, okay, well, thanks. Let's take a photo. So here's the photo below. So this Christmas season, I beg of you, every time you see Clark Griswold, every time you see Chevy, every time you hear him on the radio, pray for this man, pray for his soul. Again, I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this video. I do not want to bash Chevy. This is not a bash Chevy video. I love Chevy Chase. I care about his soul very deeply. This video is to just share, one, to the church that not everybody is receptive, and to be encouraged that just because one person is unreceptive, it doesn't mean the next person isn't going to be. This event, this day, is proof of that. It's also to get the church, the body of Christ, to pray for a lost soul before it is eternally too late. Do any celebrities ever reject the Bible or the gospel? Sadly, yes. I don't usually share stories where somebody blatantly rejects the gospel, the Bible material, or anything like that.
An atheist is saying, I know the universe so well, I know there is no God. If that ain't a truth claim, I don't know what is.
No, well, then it depends on what your definition of an atheist is, right?
Just look it up. An atheist is someone who says, I know there is no God. An agnostic is someone who says, I'm not sure, I don't know. So if you're a hard atheist,
It's been now, like, the Gospels, the story of the Gospels is not new. If you look at mythology, there's plenty, like more than enough, the stories that look just like Jesus. And, I mean, it's not folklore, it's mythology, and it's not like someone just came up and did that. It's just tradition and knowledge that has been passed down by many cultures, not just by some random group of guys. The 12 apostles, there's many other characters in mythology that have 12 apostles also. So it's not like the story of Jesus. It's not. I mean, that he had exactly 12 apostles, that 3 magicians follow him. It's not just random numbers. It's being passed down. It's knowledge. It's not just. The Bible is just a blend of cultures, a blend of traditions that have been passed down that finally consolidated in the book. That's what I believe. How do you account for those many stories that happened way before Jesus Christ?
all right, but sir, just listen to what you're saying. What I've heard you say is, because Jesus had 12 apostles, and because another religious teacher has had 12 followers.
Not just 12 followers, just death and resurrection. Same, you know.
Right, good. Give me an example of someone who historically dies and historically rises from the dead. Give me another example other than Jesus.
Hercules. He went to Hades and brought back the dead and came from the world of the dead, just like Jesus went to hell and came back and resurrected
that's just like Jesus went to hell and came back?
Sir, Hercules is not an historical person.
It's a mythological one. That's what I said.
It's a mythological person.
Yes.
Hercules is not a human being who died and then rose from the dead.
How do you know that Jesus is a human being that died and rose from the dead? How did you differentiate Jesus from Hercules if your only source is the Bible? Just like Hercules, your sources are mythological texts.
Well, sir, what you're going to have to learn to do is you're going to have to look, and you better do it quickly because otherwise you will flunk literature courses. You're going to have to learn to tell the difference between mythology and historical narrative.
So the Bible
if you
is
think that
historical
Matthew, Mark, Luke, absolutely.
Oh well, I don't know of any other historical book that talks about Jesus and that he died and resurrected aside from the Bible.
Well, then you need to read Antiquities by Josephus.
Can you tell me, Josephus is one. Tell me another.
Tacitus and Suetonius talk about followers of Christ.
Followers, not that he died and resurrected.
Oh yes.
They say that he died and resurrected.
The Jewish Mishnah has very hostile references to Jesus as being a false prophet. Very hostile references. So obviously Jesus was an historical person. He was not a mythological figure. Sir, if you can't tell the difference between mythology and historical narrative as literary genres, you will flunk your literature class.
I think you just flunk anthropology, sir, because it's the Bible it's categorized as mythological. Just so you know.
Absolutely not.
Yes,
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are written with a literary style of historical narrative, meaning by that, at this time, in this place, with these people around, Jesus said this, he did that. It reads like the New York Times, the LA Times. It's reportage, eyewitness reportage. It's not once upon a time in the land of Nod, Wynken, Blinken, and Nod took a boat ride. It's not once upon a time at all. It's at this time, in this place, during the rulership of Pontius Pilate, Tiberius Caesar, Herod. That's when it happened.
So, do you believe the Bible being a literal fact, just not a philosophical book, where it's where wisdom is supposed to be learned of, and just some random, well, not random, but like a historical book that you should read just like a textbook?
The Bible includes different literary styles. Obviously, the Psalms are poetry. Obviously, the book of Revelation is apocalyptic literature. Obviously, there's a lot of history, but when Jesus says, I'm the light of the world, it's not intellectually honest to say, oh, he's claiming to be a 100-watt light bulb. That's what it means to read the text literally.
Well,
no, you allow a writer and a speaker to use simile, metaphor, parable, allegory.
But that's what you're saying. You're saying that everything that's like the 12 disciples can be just, how do you call it? Like an allegory for the 12 zodiac signs. I mean, you can't really just, like, what do you take for what is literal, and what is metaphor, and what's allegory? Do you know? Like, I mean,
you better learn how to distinguish metaphor from what is factual. You better. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to make it through a literature class. You've got to learn to distinguish historical narrative from mythology, legend, romance literature. If you read Homer's Iliad and Odyssey and walk away saying, that's historical narrative, you're making a humongous mistake.
Well,
obviously, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey are epic poetry.
That existed in history. They have, just like Jesus, they tell you a place, a time, and certain people that appear there. Why can't they be compared to the Bible?
Well, obviously.
Well, you say obviously, but it's not obviously.
Obviously, Muhammad was an historical person who really lived, taught, fought, and died. No question about it. Obviously, Siddhartha Gautama Buddha is not a myth. Siddhartha Gautama Buddha is a man who really lived. Obviously, the historical evidence is that Jesus Christ really lived.
Oh, that's bullshit, dude.
Obviously, the Holocaust really occurred. But General Eisenhower made sure that after the Allied victory of World War II, he had journalists come from Europe, from England, and the United States to record Dachau, Auschwitz, and Buchenwald. Yeah. Because he did not want the lie to be spread that, oh no, those death camps never existed. That was just an allied plot in propaganda.
Just comparing the Holocaust to this, it's...
That's not what we're talking about, sir. We're talking about historical literature. Nailing down, did this really happen or did it not happen? And I can promise you, sir, the overwhelming evidence is Muhammad was not a myth. Muhammad is not Oedipus.
I'm not talking about Muhammad, I'm talking about Jesus.
I know, and the overwhelming historical evidence is Jesus is not a myth.
What is the historical evidence?
The historical evidence of the New Testament Gospels, of the writings of Josephus, Tacitus, Suetonius, the Jewish Mishnah, clearly points to Jesus. No, sir. The Jewish Mishnah was not part of the Bible.
No, I'm not talking
Josephus
about the
is
Bible.
not part of the Bible.
There's
Tacitus and
many other
Suetonius were not part of the Bible.
There's many readings about other mythologies, other mythological figures, not just, if you know, like, mythology is a bunch of books about mythological people, not just one book.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the Bible, I mean, there's other recordings about mythological people from the Bible in other readings.
What are you referring to?
Come support the Philippines.
You say a lot of mythologies talk about an historical person? Sir, that's not mythology. Mythology is not claiming that this is historical.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, it's that you can't take into account, like, you say that mythological characters are mythological, but you're saying that Jesus is not mythological just because you believe that.
No!
That's a belief.
That
you
is
don't
not
have...
what I said, sir.
Yes, you did.
You're not listening. Then
Just
let me
because
say it
you
again.
based yourself on the Bible.
Let me say it again. I'll say it again for you one more time. You and I, as thinking people, must learn to distinguish between the literary style, mythology, epic poem, poetry, scientific literature, and historical narrative.
Yeah.
You have a history department here at this fine university. You're paying a lot of money to study history. Why? Because history is a legitimate form of knowledge.
And I read the Bible, and it looks nothing like historical writings I've read. It looks more like the Iliad or the Odyssey. I am sorry, sir. That's how it is.
That's intellectually dishonest. The Iliad and the Odyssey are epic poems.
Have you read the Iliad and the Odyssey?
I sure have.
Have you read
And
the
I've studied the Iliad and the Odyssey.
It looks
the
a
literary
lot like the
style
Bible.
is epic poem. And if you don't believe me, just go to your literature professor and ask him, what's the literary style of the Iliad and the Odyssey of Homer? It's obviously epic poem.
Well, it's not.
The Gospels are not epic poem. The Gospels are, at this time, in this place, with these
Also
individuals
epic
around.
poems.
Archaeology supports the place names listed in the Gospels. Archaeology supports Pontius Pilate, Herod Agrippa,
They also
the leaders listed.
support Troy. They also support Menelaus. They also support all of those. And they were in the Iliad. You can't just say that history supports Jesus and not say that history doesn't support the Iliad. Exactly. So I just want
You bet. Have a great day. Take care.
Hey, I'm just curious. Do you think that like a good atheist goes to hell? Like a moral atheist goes to hell?
Fascinating question. Does a moral atheist go to hell? Well, if an atheist is a person who says there is no God, then obviously, because God respects their free will to not believe he exists, he's not going to force an atheist to spend eternity with him in heaven. In other words, hell is a statement that God respects the dignity of a person's choice. So if a person says, I'm going to live my life as if there is no God, God's not going to force him against his will to spend eternity with him in heaven. Does that make any sense?
But will he damn him to hell?
Well, what is hell? Hell is simply the result of a human choice. If I choose to live my life together with God, I'll spend eternity with God. If I choose to spend my life separate from God, I'll spend eternity separate from God, is what Jesus taught.
Okay. Sweet. That's it.
Are you an atheist? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, why are you an atheist?
I don't know. I just can't get the concept of a supreme being across in my head. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, in terms of the question, what are you living for, or who are you living for, and what's the evidence that whatever it is you're living for is reliable? How do you think that went through?
I mean, I just live for myself. I know that might be selfish, but I just don't get how God could exist, but that's...
Well, what's wrong with being selfish? I mean, you acted like that was, there was disparaging selfishness. You know, you say you live for yourself, and I know that that might sound selfish. Well, what's wrong with being selfish?
I guess not really. I mean, I don't think much, but I mean, I was just wondering if you thought atheists go to hell.
Right. Now, if I come up to this guy, and because I like his glasses, I'm selfish, and I steal his glasses for myself, do you have a problem with that, or is that cool?
Yeah, but that's kind of different.
Okay, well, how do you make an ethical decision? If there is no God, and if morality is relative, what's the basis of your ethical decisions? How do you live your life?
How my decisions affect other people.
Okay. And if you determine that your decision affects someone in an adverse way, you stay away from it?
Yeah.
Good. In fact, don't you hold to that so tightly that you really look into the face of a child abuser and say, that's really evil?
Yeah, totally.
Good. Okay, so when you look into the face of a child abuser and say, that's really evil, doesn't that tie you into justice as being a real value?
Yes.
Exactly.
I just don't see, like, I do that without a God. I don't need a God.
How can you do that without a God? How can you look into the face of the child abuser and say, that is really evil, when you know down deep that evil doesn't exist, morality is relative, because there is no God, it's all relative.
Wait, what's the question? I'm confused.
All right, if there is no God, morality is relative. Do we follow that logically? If there is no God, I write the rules, you write the rules, the child abuser writes the rules. It's all relative. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. So just chill out. Now, if you're looking into the face of a child abuser, as an atheist, don't you just chill out? Or do you say, that's really evil when you abuse that child?
Yeah.
Which one do you do?
The second one.
The second one. Okay, you see, when you look into the face of a child abuser and say, that is really evil, you're no longer being consistent with your moral relativism.
Yes, I am.
Okay, how? How are you being consistent?
I mean, I just have my own personal beliefs. He might have different beliefs, but
Good. So if your personal beliefs say that child abuse is wrong, but his personal beliefs say child abuse is right, where do you get off telling him that he's wrong? Shouldn't you instead say, from my perspective, you're wrong, but from your perspective, you're right. It's all relative.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Oh, I think you do know how to respond to that. I think you know that you have a problem in your worldview, don't you?
I still don't think I have a problem in my world.
Sure you do. If you tell me, Cliff, it's all relative, and I go up to this guy, smack him in the face, remember what you're saying. Cliff, from my perspective, to smack him is wrong. That's what you would say. But I'm saying, I'm sorry. Guys with blue sweatshirts on deserve to be smacked. I'm not right, I'm not wrong. You're not right, you're not wrong. It's all relative.
So you just attribute, I see what you're saying, it just doesn't make sense to me.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense?
I mean, I just don't get that to have a moral, like a solid moral, like compass, you need someone, like, or something, like a God to like dictate what that is. It's just...
Okay, who defines solid moral compass?
To you, it's God. To me, it's me.
Okay, now if in reality there is no God, then moral compass is defined by you, him, the child abuser, the KKK, the Nazi, me, and it's all relative, right?
I mean, I guess your argument's right, yeah.
But you see, you can't live that out, can you?
I've been doing it, and it's working out.
No, it's only working out because I don't think you're taking it seriously, right?
I don't think that moral relativism and being an atheist is necessarily hand in hand. I think you're relating these two things together, but it's not necessarily like a true. Why are these things connected in that way?
All right, very good question. Inanimate matter has no ability to make a moral distinction between right and wrong, does it? The stone has no ability. It takes a thinking mind to say, that is right, that is wrong. If there is no mind prior to the human mind, if there is no God, then obviously it's the human mind that creates right and wrong, which means right and wrong are defined by the human mind, which means my mind is not better than your mind, our minds are not better than Nazi minds, our minds are not better than child abusers' minds. The mind defines what's right and what's wrong. So, depending upon which mind you're talking to, you'll come up with it, you'll hear a different definition of right and wrong. I'm not right, you're not wrong, you're not right, I'm not wrong. It's all relative.
Said that you believe that Jesus is the way, not because you have faith in him, but because you looked at the evidence and you came to the conclusion that, based on eyewitness testimony, that he had to be the Son of God, right? Is that what your position is? That it's not faith, it was probability and evidence that led you to that, right?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for pressing for that.
Okay. I just want to.
You bet.
Before I, present my next question, I want to make sure I don't misrepresent what you're saying, right?
If you ask me,
Yeah.
Cliff, why do you believe in Jesus? And I say, because I believe.
Right.
I find that to be scary.
Okay. Yeah. That is.
I am scared when I ask somebody, why do you believe whatever it is you believe? And they answer me, because I believe. I find that embarrassing. I find that scary.
Right.
So, whenever anybody asks me, why do you believe in Jesus Christ? I don't say because I have faith. I think that's really weak. And intellectually, I got real problems with it.
Okay.
Instead, what I say is, I believe in Jesus because the historical evidence, not proof, I've been over backwards to distance myself from the word proof. No, can't prove anything.
All right.
The historical evidence of the way he lived, taught, died, and rose from the dead point to his trustworthiness.
Okay.
That's why I have taken a step of faith. Everybody has a worldview. Meaning by that, everybody has to struggle through the question, am I worth anything or not? And that's tied to, where do I come from? Secondly, is there a purpose to my life? Or is life ultimately meaningless? Thirdly, now that I am here, how am I going to live my life ethically? Cheat, steal, lie, truth, honest? We all have to make those decisions. And fourthly, what about after death? What happens? None of us can prove anything, but we all have faith that whatever we're living for is reliable. So when I say faith in Christ, I mean the evidence is he's reliable, and I choose him instead of one of the options.
Okay, but those four things that you listed right there, what you're basically saying is that Christianity answers all those things for you?
In a way that is so intellectually satisfying, it's far superior to any other philosophy I've been exposed to.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I get that right. So, you've been telling people, right?
Yeah.
To go home and read the Bible. I don't know which translation.
Gospels. I don't care what the translation, as long as it's an accurate translation.
Okay, so King James is that's okay. Preferably if you had the original Aramaic, you would say that's. Was it Aramaic? Was that the original?
Greek Testament was written in Greek.
Okay, so but if you had that, let's say you even had that, okay, and you read it.
Yeah.
But you came to the different conclusion.
Yep.
That Christianity is not. It doesn't answer those questions for you. It doesn't answer what you think about the afterlife. If you say you don't really think Jesus is the guy that he says he is, right?
Yep.
Are they wrong, or are you okay with that? Or I mean, have you? I assume you're out here to spread the word of salvation, right? You're trying to get people to think the same way you do. Is that correct?
No.
Or am I okay?
I'm not out here to get people to think the same way I do.
But you're trying to get them to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, right?
I'm out here to introduce people to my closest friend, Jesus Christ.
Okay, but if they go out and read the Bible and they come to a different conclusion,
yeah,
are they wrong?
They're either right or wrong the same way I am either right or wrong.
So, okay, so it's an either-or situation. It's not shades of gray. It's not.
Well, there are shades of gray, but due to the fact that Jesus made truth claims, I either accept that as being true and reliable, or I reject it.
Okay.
Him. I reject him or I accept him. Same with Muhammad.
Right.
All religions are the same. That's a truth claim.
Okay.
And guess what? That truth claim contradicts the majority of people on this planet.
That's right. I mean, it contradicts.
Right.
But
so it means it's either right or wrong. Right?
Right. I mean, well, when you say that, okay.
Yeah.
Are you saying that one out of all those religions is true? I mean, I don't want to rephrase two questions that I've already been put forward.
Good.
Right
No,
now,
no,
right?
I love your thinking. All right.
Somebody
if I
let me ask
say
about that.
one religion is true, that's a truth claim. If I say 5 religions are true, that's a truth claim. If I say all religions are equally true, that's a truth claim. You see, guys, unless you're simply going to say, well, here's an opinion, you're making a truth claim. I don't care if you say one religion is true, 5 religions are true, or all religions are true. When you make each one of those statements, you are making a truth claim.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a claim.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm confused when you say the word truth claim.
Yes.
That's assuming that the person, and I don't want to argue semantics right now, it's assuming that the person saying that actually believes that whatever they're saying is true, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's true for everyone, obviously.
Oh, no, wait a second. If a Muslim says to me, Islam is the truth, they're not just saying, for me, Islam is the truth.
No,
they're
they
saying
actually
in
believe
reality.
that, right. I mean, it's the same people that think that the sun goes around the earth, right? There's a group in Illinois, they're called the Galileo is wrong people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They have a convention every year, and they legitimately believe that, the earth does not go around the sun, based on, they're obviously a French group, right?
Yeah.
But they're making a truth claim.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not correct, right? We would all agree
But
on
if I
that.
say to you 2 + 2 = 4, is that a truth claim? Oh, come on, guys. If I say 2 + 2 = 4, is that a truth claim?
Yes.
Thank you. That's a truth claim.
It's a claim.
No, it's not just a claim.
It's a claim, and we know that it's true because we can empirically prove it, right? We know every scenario where we have 2 and you add 2 more things to it, you always get 4. There's never been a situation or a scenario where we haven't gotten 4. It's never happened.
George Washington was the first president of the United States. Is that a truth claim?
Yes.
Thank you. Like it or not, guys, you make truth claims, everybody does. So now the question becomes, are you in touch with the truth or not? Obviously, Jesus Christ made an incredible claim. He claimed to be the truth. He claimed to be God in human form. He's either lying, out to lunch, blowing smoke, or else he's who he claimed to be, God in human form. He's making a truth claim. Now, here's what I am getting to resent. As I speak on university campuses, I hear this line of thinking. If you believe that Jesus is the only way to God, you are arrogant, intolerant, and prone to violence. You know why that's so dishonest?
Well, I mean, you're putting people in a box when you say that. And, it's not true, right?
Thank you. Why is it not true?
That's a straw man, right?
Well, why is that not true? Yeah, but I hear that from professors, right? I debate professors, and I hear that one from a lot of professors. Like if I tell you 2 + 2 = 4, is that arrogant? No. It's a truth claim, right? Now, if you say to me 2 + 2 = 5, that's when arrogance or humility is going to be shown. That's when tolerance or intolerance are going to be shown. It's when you and I have a disagreement, whatever the disagreement's about. That's when we're either going to see tolerance and humility, or we're going to see arrogance and intolerance. But to make a truth claim, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Muhammad is the truth. The avatars of Hinduism are the truth. It's not arrogance, it's not intolerance. It doesn't mean you're prone to violence. It means you're making a truth claim. Now, how you respond to people who disagree with you, that'll display whether you're an arrogant twit, an intolerant twit, and prone to violence. Fair enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is you're making a truth claim, right?
Correct.
Hindus are making a truth claim.
Right.
Right. Muslims are making a truth claim.
Right.
And what they believe is, they believe what they're saying is actually true, right?
Atheists are making a truth claim. Agnostics are making a truth claim.
I don't know about atheists are making a truth
Oh, come on.
They're making
An atheist is saying, I know the universe so well, I know there is no God. If that ain't a truth claim, I don't know what is.
No, well, then it depends on what your definition of an atheist is, right?
Just look it up. An atheist is someone who says, I know there is no God. An agnostic is someone who says, I'm not sure, I don't know. So if you're a hard atheist, you're saying, I know there is no God. If you're an agnostic, you're saying, I don't know.
Okay, I'll agree with those definitions. If you want to go down that route, that's fine. I mean, most people, technically you're supposed to categorize atheists as agnostic atheists or Gnostic atheists, starting with the G, G-N-O-S-T, right? Gnostic atheists are the ones that say, I know there is no God. And that is an unscientific position to have, right? Because I can't go around proving people wrong. I'm sure you've already gotten 18 questions on this, right? I can't go around proving that God doesn't exist, right?
Good.
It just means that, like you said, you put out what you think is a truth claim. I've looked at that and I've said it hasn't satisfied me. I'm not convinced.
Yep.
And we can both go our separate ways and we're fine, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we're all right. You can't put everybody in a box.
Right.
Not everybody thinks the same way.
Right.
I think you've done a good job saying that, right? But
hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my central question was, you know, last semester we had those Hindu monks that were walking around. They were giving out the Bhagavad Gitas.
Good.
Okay. And they believed what they were saying was true. And I guess
yes. And I respect them.
Well, I mean, you're saying that if you accept Jesus, you will eventually get to salvation, right?
If you accept Jesus, he promises you'll go to heaven.
Right.
Yep.
I don't want to. I'm not so well versed in Hinduism, but I can assume that along the way to Nirvana, or I'm sorry, that's Buddhism. Sorry.
No, it's both. Hinduism
It's
and
both. Yeah,
Buddhism
it's
are
both.
you're headed toward. Hopefully,
right?
you're going
if
to Nirvana.
If you go along the right path, what is it, the 8 steps or whatever it is, right? You will achieve enlightenment.
Yeah.
Whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's their version of salvation.
Right.
So it is possible then that both truth claims can be right and both people can reach salvation?
No, because they contradict each other. I'm either here or not here.
So you look at both.
I'm not both here and not here.
So you're looking at both truth claims, and you're saying that me, Cliff, I'm saying that my Christian one is correct.
No, I'm saying the evidence is that Jesus Christ is reliable in a way that none of the options are.
Okay.
Don't take it from me. Read the Quran, read the Vedas and Upanishads, read the Gospels, and ask yourself, what does the evidence point to? If you're a searcher after truth, if you want to live in reality, you owe it to yourself as a thinking human being to seriously explore the options that you think are good options. All I'm doing here is standing here saying, Jesus Christ is a great option. I can't prove him. The evidence is he's reliable. You got to check him out. Read the Gospels for yourself. Don't take it from me. As a thinking human being, go to the source document, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, read it for yourself.
Okay, so as a final point, this is my final.
I'm sorry to hear that. I like talking with you.
Oh no, well, we can keep going if you want. I mean,
I'd love to.
I'm afraid we will go in circles, but I mean, your conclusion is that the Christian truth claim is more correct than the Hindu one that I just stated.
Correct.
Because there's more evidence to support your position. Okay.
To support Jesus
I just want to
Christ.
make sure, that was actually my first question, was that's what you're saying. Jesus is the way because there's more evidence that points to him.
Everything in my worldview is based on Jesus Christ, which means I better I'm an idiot for not believing in him. So I better check him out.
Okay, well,
very carefully.
What about all the biblical scholars like Bart Ehrman? I can't remember a second guy. Okay, so you've heard of him, right?
Not only have I heard about Bart, I've debated him.
Oh, you okay?
Had dinner with a guy.
Okay. And I read his book.
Yeah.
And I used to be a Mormon, and so I was very religious. I don't want to get into a personal story with me anyway, but I fell out of it. And I mean the same principles that I used to get out of Mormonism, where I was looking at, you know, the history of Joseph Smith, and he was obviously a fraud, right? We know he was. Sorry, Mormons that are out there, you got to go. We know he is, right? Probably was.
I can't believe you're saying it, but I'm very excited you're saying it.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, so
You're
you
right.
agree. I mean, using
Joseph
just,
Smith was
just
out of
looking
touch
at
with reality.
Just looking at, I mean, down there, Church of Scientology. I just recently read a book called Going Clear.
Yeah.
All about L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was such a charlatan.
Thank
right?
you. You're right.
And you.
You said it, not me, though.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, they'll probably
So thank
sue
you.
me. They'll probably sue me, but that's okay. But I mean.
They better not.
But, using the same principles of logic and reason, and, Joseph Smith said some crazy ass Can I say that? Sorry. Sorry, I can't say that. He said some
I wouldn't
crazy
say it
stuff.
that way, but I agree with you.
Well, he did, right?
He did.
He definitely did.
Oh, the guy was incredible.
And what's even better is that I believed him for 15 years, okay?
I'm sorry.
Right? So, I had to believe that horses lived in North America for 15 years before Columbus got here. There was elephants and everything. It's crazy. Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But when you look at, the evidence, the history of the church and whatnot, and the same thing goes with Scientologists.
Yep.
They become disillusioned.
Yes.
And when I apply those same principles to Christianity, because I really did go searching after I lost my faith.
Yeah.
And I came to the same conclusion that it's in order for me to be satisfied, I need to have, I know you don't like the word proof, but beyond reasonable doubt evidence to support a claim, right? And Ford Ehrman, some other biblical scholars that look at the history of the Bible and the way it's written, a lot of them come to the conclusions that Jesus most likely existed, right? I agree with that. All the evidence points to that. But there's just so much afterwards manipulation, a lot of mistranslations going on. I'm sure you're more well versed in this than me because you study the Bible, right? History of it. Matthew, Mark, Q document, whatnot.
Yep.
But when you look at all that stuff, I just say there's way too many things that we don't understand, not enough evidence to support the claim. And that's enough, right?
It seems to me that what I hear from you is, you didn't say preponderance of evidence, you said
beyond reasonable doubt.
That's it, beyond reasonable doubt. Okay.
Like 2 + 2 = 4. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean, right? Every scenario, we've never had a case where 2 + 2 = 5.
Okay, good.
You can't even fathom it.
Do you
right?
need that kind of evidence before you can make a decision?
You start talking about error tolerances and, what is good enough for me to believe it. Yeah, I mean...
Then you'll never get married.
It's got to be.
You can't go to sleep tonight if you have a roommate. Because there is no way that you have 2 + 2 = 4 type of certainty that roommate's not going to stick a knife in your back as you lie asleep on your bed. You can't drive a car because you do not have 2 + 2 = 4 type of certainty that the guy coming towards the red light when you go through and it's green is going to stop. You don't know he's not going to run that red light and send you to an early grave. You guys are making a fundamental mistake. You're thinking that in order to know something, you have to have such a preponderance of evidence, basically proof, in order to believe it. You can't live that way. And that's why I talk with Bart about his marriage, about his parenting. You can't live your life demanding such an incredibly stringent level of evidence before you trust. You'll be a very lonely, very isolated person. Now, you better not be a gullible fool and just blindly trust. You better demand evidence that someone's not going to rip you off. And sir, if someone only wants to be your friend because you got money, watch out. You better find some people that really care about you, right?
Yeah, okay.
And you better not have some incredible standard of 2 + 2 = 4, and if you don't meet it, you're not going to be my friend. I mean, come on, you can't live your life that way, guys. Right? And that's the mistake Bart is making. Are there thousands of manuscript variants? Yes, there are. But we don't have the original manuscripts, Bart. We all know that. But we have such a plethora of Greek manuscripts of the New Testament that we have an amazingly high degree of certainty that we really have what was written. So if you're going to push this inerrancy issue and laugh at Christians who believe the Bible's the inerrant word of God, knowing full well that there are thousands of manuscripts and thousands of manuscript variations, come on, buddy, you're playing a silly game. You can't live your life that way. It doesn't work. You see, and what my real problem is, and I didn't unload this on him, You're either being inconsistent or you're being a hypocrite, an intellectual hypocrite. Because you're saying, there's not enough evidence for me to believe in Christ, but then you're going out and living for something that doesn't have anywhere near the evidence that Christ has, and you're trusting in it. Like all my wonderful friends who say, stock portfolio, Wall Street, that's where it's at, man. And let's make no mistake, they get up at 4:30 in the morning, they get home at 8:30 at night, and they make a ton of money. And that's the bottom line. Please give me your overwhelming evidence that the ultimate purpose of life is to make money. Give me a break. People have faith, incredible faith, in the American dream. Make money. It's a worldview, sir. Watch out.
I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you, sir, so much for this.
That's
Well,
unforgivable.
yeah, if you ask him for forgiveness. Forgiveness is not something that God forces on any of us.
So say like, I live my whole life, I get to that point and I'm like, oh, I get it now. There you are, all right? Well, I'm sorry, and may I be forgiven for not knowing throughout my lifetime and not accepting it. But, obviously it's right here in front of me. May I be forgiven? Or is it too late at that point?
Too late. Why?
And then how's that fair? I don't
Because
see
life-
what the fairness in the... I haven't seen any concrete information or facts that, lead me to believe one way or another. I know morally what's right, what's wrong, but I just, I like with the instance of like Muslim adults or Hindu or whatever that, for believing a certain way, but yet being a good person in your life isn't good enough. And I think in the eyes of someone who's passing judgment, that almost puts him in a fallible situation, gives him human characteristics, but he's supposed to be infallible. I mean, how do you say what's right and wrong, for when you're doing what's right, but it's wrong because you didn't believe? It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like a human characteristic to be arrogant almost. If he's drawing us to us that he wants the attention, he wants to come be a part of it, or he has love, then there must be anger and evil on the other side, which we see in our world. How is he all love and nothing else, because one can't exist without the other? I mean, it baffles me.
Okay, God is not just all love. God is also just. If anybody thinks that they can love and then not be angry when the person that they love is murdered, then they don't know what love is. Because if I love you and someone comes up and begins to exploit you, the appropriate response is anger, moral outrage, a demand for justice, that you be treated justly.
Yeah.
So God's anger is not a statement that he doesn't love. God's anger is a statement that he does love, and he is abhorrent about the way we dehumanize each other and degrade each other. So
But
God's
what
anger
I'm saying, isn't
is
that
good.
adding human characteristic to an infallible being? Like I just don't understand how that our emotional states can apply to something so magnificent that it would be even part of the equation.
Great point. That is the mystery of the Bible when it says we're created in the image, in the likeness of God. You can love. Why? Because God is a God who loves. And when he created you, he gave you the innate ability to love. Now, part of love is when your loved one is being manipulated and ripped off, you reel back with moral indignation saying, that's wrong, that's not right. I'm angry that you would dehumanize this person this way. Now, that's also a reflection of God's nature. God is angry over evil. Why? If you love somebody and they're ripped off and you just sit back and say, oh, well, I just love, that's not real love. If you really are concerned about someone, about their well-being, and they're ripped off, you've got to be angry. Otherwise, you've got to go back and question the genuineness of your love.
Okay, but like when you come back to fairness, say like if you're condemned to hell, like I said, living a good life, but then in front of the judgment, that you're condemned to hell because of something that doesn't seem very fair. I don't see how you place that as a fair, rational decision of somebody that would love. You know, to say that, well, you know, you did well, but almost. You know, like.
Okay.
It seems like a question of arrogance, and arrogance in itself is a fallibility.
Good point. Great point. I like your thinking. All right. I wish that I could stand here and tell you the reason I'm going to heaven is because I'm a good guy. But if I told you that, sir, I'd be lying through my teeth. I am not this good guy that I wish you would believe that I am. I have a problem with evil. My favorite episode of 60 Minutes is when Mike Wallace interviews Yehiel Denur, survivor of Dachau and Auschwitz. During the interview, Mike Wallace shows Yehiel Denur the film clip where Yehiel Denur walks into the courtroom where Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi henchman, is being tried. And they watch as Yehiel Denur walks to the front of the courtroom, stands in front of Adolf Eichmann behind the pane of glass, and suddenly Yehiel Denur begins to weep uncontrollably, and he collapses to the ground weeping. And at that point, Mike Wallace looks him in the face and says, "Were you overcome with hatred for that man and grief over what he did?" And Yehiel Denur said, "No. When I looked into Adolf Eichmann's face, I began to realize this is a normal man. There's a bit of Adolf Eichmann inside of me." That's good, Yehiel Denur. That's exactly Cliff's problem. Yes, at times I do good. Yes, at times I love my wife and I take care of my children. But at other times, I'm selfish, I'm greedy, I'm mean, I'm lustful, I'm arrogant. I am a sinner. And for that, I deserve God's judgment. There's only one reason, sir, I'm going to heaven. And that's because God loves this sinner so much, he sent his son Christ to bleed and die on a cross to forgive me, to take the punishment that I deserve, and to forgive. You see, every time...
So if you eliminate all those things, lust, greed, all these things that you say might be a vice for yourself.
Yes.
But you can't be forgiven for not accepting Jesus Christ? That's unforgivable?
Yeah, if you ask him for forgiveness. Forgiveness is not something that God forces on any of us.
So say like, you know, I live my whole life, I get to that point and I'm like, oh, I get it now. There you are. All right. Well, I'm sorry, and may I be forgiven for not knowing throughout my lifetime and not accepting it. But you know, obviously it's right here in front of me. You know, may I be forgiven? Or is it too late at that point?
Too late. Why?
And how's that fair? I don't
Because
see what the fairness in the judgment is.
Okay, all right. The answer is because life is the time that God has given you and me to decide whether we want to spend eternity with God or eternity separate from him. G.K. Chesterton, the great English thinker, put it this way.
Well, but you're not just being separated from God. You're being associated with, say, Satan, correct? So I mean, you're not just like removed. You're not just stuck in purgatory or something like that for all time, where you're just in an absence of meaning. You go to a place of damnation, of torture and hatred.
Or annihilation.
Or annihilation.
Right. So you're not having dinner with Satan every night. You're probably getting annihilated eventually. You see, hell, read the Gospels. Jesus doesn't give us a photograph. You know, he talks about outer darkness, and then he talks about fire. Well, how do you have fire and outer darkness at the same time? So you got to be real careful that you don't put together a photograph of hell. I can't describe for you exactly what hell is. But I do know that Jesus used the most horrible language imaginable to describe it. So I can promise you, sir, to be honest with you, it's one of the things that motivates me to stand out here, because I don't want you or anybody else to go to hell. I hate that thought.
Yeah. Well, I don't think any of us would wish it, you know, if that was the case. I don't think anybody would be like, I hope you go to hell, you know,
right.
like.
Exactly. Good. Okay, but you see, sir, the problem is I've done evil. And because God is good, I have earned separation from God. I've earned God's punishment. I've earned hell.
But I guess what I'm saying is that I don't believe that it's fair that, say, I go out and I'm greedy every day, I'm selfish, I lust, I have, you know, sex with multiple women every day in, day out, I do drugs, I do that, but I've accepted Christ, but I'm going to go out and do these things anyways. But, you know, towards the end of it, I'm just going to say, you know, may I be forgiven for all that I've done wrong, and be truly remorseful for it, you know, yet I've lived a whole life of sin and be forgiven for those things, but accepted because of my acceptance of Christ.
Good. But you know what the word is for that person you've described.
What, a hypocrite?
Yeah. Hey, bud, I would really like to be your friend 30 years from now. Just before I check out of here, I'd really like to be your friend.
Yeah.
Well, you better not be hoodwinked by that one. I'm a phony through and through. Hey, God, I'd really like to be your friend 30 years from now. Wow, you're playing Russian roulette with your soul. That's hypocrisy. Now, yes, does Jesus Christ accept us at any point when we genuinely ask him for forgiveness? Yes, but the operative word there is genuine. And you and I both know that if you play the hypocritical game long enough, you lose touch with who you are. You've lied to yourself about yourself so much, you totally disconnect from who you are as a person. You've played a horrible game of hypocrisy. That's why Jesus reserved some of his most scathing words for the religious hypocrites. Oh, you know why I'm going to heaven? Because I'm better than you. Oh, yeah? I got news for you, Christ says. You're going to hell, buddy. Until you wake up and start smelling the coffee and realize that you need God's grace, his help, you ain't no candidate for heaven. And that's why he went after those religious hypocrites. Because they were playing Russian roulette with their soul.
Well, I got explain to me the need for God. I mean, we're given free choice and everything, and we can do what we like, and like I said, do right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand where I would need God to make that happen.
Good.
I mean, I don't get it.
Well, death is pretty powerful.
Huh?
Death is pretty powerful.
But it's coming for all of us.
Yeah.
Know, like,
so the question is there life after death? And the only way there can be life after death is if there is some type of supernatural God who gives it to us. If there's no supernatural God, there ain't no life after death. That's for sure, right?
Well, I mean, don't we just all decompose and come back in another form of life that breeds into life, since it's all one cycle of energy? I mean, wouldn't that be an afterlife in itself?
Okay, that is exactly right. If there is no God, if there is no God, we die. We become fertilizer. Maybe we can help flowers bud a little more beautifully, but there ain't no me coming back. That's for sure. Jesus Christ was dead. He rose from the dead.
Well, I mean, we pass on our genetics onto our children. I mean, that's you know, I am my past, you know, fathers and mothers. You know, like they live on through me. So that's an afterlife in itself.
In a sense. But I like what Woody Allen said. Woody Allen said, "Who cares about living on in the minds of my fans? I'm interested in living on in my apartment." Well, I understand Woody Allen. Yeah, you're right. I have 3 sons. I'm probably have some grandchildren one day. But the question is it possible for me, Cliff, to have life after death or not? And obviously,
it'd be a very comforting thought. But there's no one to say that there has been.
Okay, good. That's where Jesus Christ steps in. He makes these ridiculous claims during his life. I am the resurrection of the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies. Well, who do you think you are, Christ? But then he dies and comes back from the dead. And that blows his doubting, Christ-denying disciples right out of the water. When they see Christ risen from the dead, they put their faith in him and they die for him. Whereas before his resurrection, they betrayed him, deserted him, denied him. His bravest follower, Peter, denied knowing him 3 times before he was crucified. But after he rose, man, Peter stood before the Roman soldier, and the Roman soldier said, "Say Caesar is Lord and live, or else maintain that your Jesus is Lord, that he's risen from the dead, and we'll kill you for it." And Peter said, "I'm sorry, I've seen him risen from the dead. He's Lord." And he got crucified upside down.
I mean, I see that's something obvious, and just like, I mean, if we were to sit here and say one of those people earlier that you just went and whacked and didn't get punished for, and then we all turned around and they were just like, "Whoa," and popped back up, I might be able to, you know, believe that. But I mean, we're talking thousands of years or hundreds of years that, you know, that this story is just carried on. But like, I fail to see the miracles like that happen that would suggest that, you know, that I should believe a certain way.
Good. But please remember, the Bible is like ESPN highlights. The Bible records miracles, but it's not saying, oh, miracles just happen every day all the time. It's not the point. The point is, because there's a supernatural God, miracles can happen, but they don't happen all the time. All right? They do not happen all the time. That's why we call them miracles. Second point is, you're absolutely right. That's why you got to figure out, are the Gospels historically reliable? Because if this guy rose from the dead, even though you lived 2,000 years after him, you can find out historically that he did rise from the dead, or that he didn't. That's why you got to figure out, are these Gospels reliable when they claim to give us eyewitness reportage that the dead Christ really rose from the dead, or is it mythology? Well, lots of myths running around. Yeah. So is it mythology? And what becomes clear is that the authors of the Gospels and Peter understood the difference between mythology and historical narrative. Why? In 1 Peter 1:16, Peter writes, "We did not follow cleverly invented stories when we told you about the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of him." So Peter was fully aware of the fact there's a lot of mythology, a lot of cleverly invented stories floating around out there. This is not what we're telling you. We're telling you the historical facts about this Jesus of Nazareth. So he understood the difference between the two.
When you talk about people are judged differently based on their knowledge,
right?
So, like someone who believes in a different religion, Judaism or whatever, they believe that they're truly finding God through their religion.
Yes, sir.
They're doing well. They
Yes, sir.
live a healthy life. They live a good life by God's standards.
Yep.
And they truly believe that they're finding God through their religion. And they find out come judgment that, all right, they kind of put all their money on the wrong horse. Are they going to be judged in the same light as those that followed God appropriately? Like,
okay, I got to divide that excellent question into two parts. The first part, those people who have heard about Christ, reject him and follow some other religion, versus those people who have never heard about Christ and who follow some other religion. I got to divide that there. All right? Now, in John chapter 3, beginning at verse 16, going through verse 18, Jesus says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." Now he says, "Whoever believes in him is not condemned. But whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of God's one and only Son." But I'm just the mailman delivering you Jesus' mail. That's what he said. So I think it's rather clear that if a human being is exposed to Christ and says no, they are rejecting God, because Jesus claimed to be God in human form. Secondly, they're rejecting God's offer of forgiveness, for he insisted that when he bled and died on the cross, it was to pay the penalty for human sin, which means they're choosing to live their life separate from God, and they will have to pay for their own sin, their own wrongdoing. Now, what about the person who's never heard about Christ? I do not know, because Christ never specifically addressed the question. But I think what that question that you're raising is getting at is God going to rip people off? Is God going to arbitrarily send people to hell? And the clear answer to that is no way. The clear answer to that is Hebrews chapter 11 lists names of people who will be in heaven who obviously never heard about Christ. They were born hundreds of years before him. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Rahab, a Gentile prostitute, obviously never heard about Christ. They were born 2,000 to 1,000 years before him. But in humility, they put their faith in God. God takes the death of his Son Christ, applies it to their life, although they never knew about Jesus, and they're going to be in heaven. Hebrews chapter 11 clearly states. You and I have more than ample opportunity to read the Gospels, so we are responsible for what we do with Christ. Now, because Christ revealed that God's character is just and good, we never have to fear that he's going to rip anybody off. He will judge everybody justly and fairly. Is Jesus the truth? Now remember, all truth is exclusive. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Means 2 plus 2 does not equal 3, does not equal 5. it equals 4. Now, if I just say my opinion is, then I'm not making a truth claim, and there's no exclusivity necessarily. But if I make a truth claim, then what I'm saying is, this is correct, and this is incorrect. Now, obviously, if Muhammad spoke the truth, I'm going to hell, because I'm a blasphemer. I worship a prophet, Jesus of Nazareth, as more than a prophet, as God in human form. So if Muhammad spoke the truth, I go to hell. If Siddhartha Gautama Buddha spoke the truth, I'm in for a very difficult next reincarnation. If Jesus Christ spoke the truth, I'm going to heaven. Why? Jesus claimed to be the way through death, out the other side to eternal life. I've put my faith in him. He promises eternal life to all who trust in him. If he lied, then depending on what the truth is, I will suffer the consequences. But if Christ spoke the truth, I'm going to heaven. Well, how do you define life? In every major medical center in the United States, if a body lying on a bed in an intensive care unit has brain activity and heartbeat, doctors and nurses are legally, ethically responsible to do everything within their power to sustain that life. Between 4 to 6 weeks after conception, the, quote, little piece of skin in a woman's womb, unquote, has both brain activity and heartbeat. I would hope that all of us would be able to agree that between 4 to 6 weeks after conception, that's a human life, not just a piece of skin.
The scripture says, I knew you before you were born.
Yep.
So, when did he send us on our way?
Good point. Now, what is the difference between a 4-minute-old fertilized egg and a 4-week-old fertilized egg?
A lot of tissue.
Okay. There is a difference in maturation. Is there a difference in kind? No. No difference in kind. Let that 4-minute-old fertilized egg continue to grow, and 100 times out of 100, that fertilized egg passes down a birth canal as a human being, never as an alligator, never as a pig, never as a chicken. 100 times out of 100 as a human being.
When did you say the heartbeat began?
Yeah, between 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks. The difference between a 4-second-old fertilized embryo and a 4-week-old fertilized embryo, you say it's not a difference in kind. Right after you stipulated that we can say there's a kind difference between living and dead, and this is the criterion we were going to use. So how can you then claim that there is no difference in kind?
There is no difference in kind, meaning by that genetic makeup, meaning by that a stage of development, a stage of maturation. There's no difference in kind between a 4-minute-old fertilized egg, a 4-week-old fertilized egg, a 40-year-old fertilized egg.
Okay, so then the distinction between heartbeat and mental activity, that cannot be used as a criterion for one kind or another kind?
Right. I use that simply to point out, in every major medical center in the United States, if a body lying on a bed in an intensive care unit has heartbeat and brain activity, unequivocally, doctors and nurses are legally and ethically responsible to sustain that life. It's clearly a life. Brain activity and heartbeat. I said I trust we all can agree on that.
Okay, so the kind that we're talking about that unites a 4-week-old fertilized embryo with a 4-minute-old fertilized egg is not the kind of living versus not living, because that was reserved for the heartbeat and mental activity, right?
No, what I was appealing to was a common agreement on life. That's all I was doing.
Okay.
All right? I'm trying to build consensus, right? And the consensus, hopefully, is that if a body has brain activity and heartbeat, you better not be killing it, because that's a human life on a bed in a hospital.
But you do concede that a 4-minute-old fertilized egg does not have a heartbeat or brain activity?
Correct.
Okay.
No heartbeat, no brain activity in a 4-minute-old fertilized egg. But what is the difference between that 4-minute-old fertilized egg, a 4-week-old fertilized egg, and a 40-year-old fertilized egg? My argument is, it is only a difference in degree of maturity.
Well, people do in the bedrooms their own business. Mind your own.
Why don't you come and talk? God gave all of us 2 ends. One to sit on and the other to think with. Our entire future depends upon which one you use. Heads you win, tails you lose. You've got to use your brain and think. Think. God gave you that ability. It's a great gift. Use it well. So, ma'am, that is why I take a strong stand against abortion. Why? Because I'm convinced that as soon as that egg and that sperm come together, that's a human life. Now, in the same breath that I stand against abortion, I'm going to stand for adoption, and I'm going to point out that Jesus Christ bled and died on a cross to forgive us for our wrongdoing, and I am a sinner. That's for sure. And if you don't believe me, you can talk to my wife. She will verify that fact for you. I'm in desperate need of God's grace, God's forgiveness. And that's what Jesus Christ offers through his death on the cross. God places such a premium on your life that he sent his only son Christ to buy you back, to give his life on a cross so that you could have eternal life with him in heaven. That's how valuable he considers you and all of us. And that is why, as a follower of Christ, I seek to stand for the value of every human life.
What type of birth control then is legitimate as far as your standing? As far as
birth control that keeps the egg and the sperm apart, I have no problem with. Why? In Genesis chapters 1 and 2, God gives human beings the authority to bring order to nature. And I would argue that keeping the sperm and the egg separate is an example of bringing order to nature. But, sir, believe me, if you're against birth control, I have no desire to change your mind. Okay? I respect your respect for the dignity of life, and I would never try to change your mind. You might be correct.
I know for a fact the only thing that is on earth that supports the Old Testament, that inconceivably, undeniably, that the Jewish faith has, that says, look, this right here is like, you can't deny that this right here is, you know, proves that the Old Testament is true, is the Wailing Wall, the West Wall.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. That's the only thing.
Really?
That's the only thing.
Really?
The
What
only
about
thing.
Jerusalem?
Undeniable.
What about the Sea of Galilee?
Can't.
You cannot archaeologically verify Jerusalem and the Sea of Galilee? You gotta be kidding me.
Can't.
You can't?
And you know what? Those words aren't my own. Those words are from my professor from last quarter.
You don't think Jerusalem is an archaeologically verifiable city? You don't think Bethlehem is an archaeologically verifiable city? Sure, think.
They're archaeological verified.
Yeah, they sure are.
Say that anything related to the Bible has actually happened there. There's no accurate, unconceivably true evidence that those have happened exactly as they're written.
Sir, how do you archaeologically verify that Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth?
Not through the Bible.
How do you archaeologically verify whether Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth? You don't, sir. Instead, what is history? It's based on the trustworthiness of eyewitness testimony.
Bible verses and chapters being purged by kings, popes, leaders, people who form new religions. The Bible you're reading now is probably not even 1% accurate of the Bible they read 1,000 years ago.
Okay, now, you're serious,
that's an arbitrary number.
You're serious, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, please back up what you just said with some evidence.
Some evidence?
Yeah.
The purging in the Renaissance.
Yes.
Through Italy and Greece.
Yes.
There have been, I don't know the specific number because I'm not a history major and I don't study things like that.
Right.
But I have read up on it.
Yeah.
There have been purges of verses of the Bible that do not paint God or Jesus or Christ or whoever you want to talk about in a good light. They've been painted in a bad light. They've done things that are not representative of the church at that time. So they're gone. They're blacklisted. And they don't come back.
Sir, the Gospels that we have in English today have nothing to do with the Middle Ages. The Gospels that we have in English today are based on over 5,200 Greek manuscripts or pieces of manuscript dated from the 1st through the 10th century AD, all agreeing to an infinitesimal degree. Sir, there is no document from antiquity, be it Aristotle, Plato, Thucydides, Herodotus, that can even approach the New Testament Gospels in manuscript evidence. Sir, if you think that some pope twisted the New Testament and we have some twisted, perverted version today, you are denying the fact that the John Rylands manuscript in the John Rylands University Library in Manchester, England, is a fragment of the Gospel of John dated between 115 and 130 AD, long before a pope ever sat in Rome. There is no document from antiquity that can even approach the Gospels in manuscript evidence. So do you understand what you're saying is totally incorrect?
Sea of Galilee, Jerusalem, those things never came from the Bible. Those things came from men. That's why.
So did the Wailing Wall. The Wailing Wall didn't come from the Bible.
Okay, but the Wailing Wall, there's nothing. The Wailing Wall is not like there's no other text. There's no other nothing. Like nothing, like says, oh, the Wailing Wall was built. Da, 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 and nothing talks about the Wailing Wall except the Bible.
Really?
It's the one. Yeah.
Where in the Bible does it talk about the Wailing Wall?
Because it doesn't say the Wailing Wall. It talks about the wall, the walls of the temple.
Yeah.
It talks about that. That's what the Wailing Wall is. It's a wall from the original temple. It's the only thing left. That is only the one thing that is from the Bible and nothing else.
All right, let me give you another one. John chapter 5, Jesus heals a man at the pool of Siloam, surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Until 50 years ago, religion professors on every state university campus used to laugh at the Gospel of John chapter 5 because there was no archaeological find of the pool of Siloam. But a few years ago, an archaeological dig uncovered the pool of Siloam. Sir, there is so much archaeological evidence for the New Testament, it's embarrassing.
What I don't believe in is that we should praise Jesus. I feel that he's more of a, basically your modern day Bob Marley, MLK Jr., somebody that was killed because they were trying to bring the power back to the people and bring peace, love, and happiness back to everybody.
Great.
He was crucified. This is a symbol to everybody.
Right.
To not do that anymore, or else we're just gonna do the same to you.
Good.
It was just a power-hungry move.
You bet.
But I'm not gonna praise him as that. I'm not gonna make him an idol. He was just a symbol in the past. Like all religion is symbolic to get you to be a good person and live a good life.
Okay. Great. My simple question to you is, what's the evidence that Jesus was a first century Bob Marley?
The evidence is his good works, his
How do you know he did good
teaching
works?
to his disciples.
How do you know he taught?
Because of what was written in a book by man that I read, from what I read that somebody else wrote.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
It's the only type of book you read, right?
Yeah.
Books that are written by men and women.
Yeah. Somebody wrote about him to try to get the word out, and then people went and burned those Bibles, tried to get rid of everything, and just tried to remove any recollection of all of it, changed it like they were saying earlier. There's no actual evidence that he lived, but
no actual evidence that Jesus lived?
There isn't any.
Well, then why do you believe he was a Bob Marley-like figure?
I'm just saying that that's what he symbolized. He was a symbol. It doesn't matter if he lived or not.
The myth symbolizes Bob Marley? Who is he? Jesus of Nazareth. Is he a fictitious figure, a myth, or what?
It could be. You don't know. Neither do I. Nobody knows. He's just symbolic. It doesn't. Nobody's saying that he's real. I just say that we shouldn't praise him because he's only a symbol. We don't know if he lived. We don't know if he didn't live. We don't know if somebody just made him up.
But this figure who spoke the Sermon on the Mount claimed to be God in human form. Not only that, but hundreds of people said, we saw him, we walked with him, we saw him die on a cross, we buried him, 3 days later, we saw him risen from the dead. Now, the literary style that they use in those Gospels is not mythology. It's not once upon a time. Wynken, Blinken, and Odd took a boat ride. Instead, it's at this time, in this place, with these people around, Jesus said this and he did that. It's eyewitness reportage.
You said said that he was God in human form. He said he was the Son of God. But we're all the sons of God. He created us. Anybody could say that. I'm the Son of God, you're the Son of God. Everybody is. That doesn't mean he's God in human form.
In John chapter 8, verse 58, Jesus said, before Abraham was born, I am. The Jews did not call God G-O-D. They called him Yahweh, Jehovah, which is the Hebrew verb I am. The Jews had no problem understanding Jesus. They picked up stones to stone him for blasphemy. He claimed to be God in human form. So how do you walk into a text, accept some things as legit, and dismiss other things as illegit? How do you make that distinction?
Have you seen the new Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah.
Guy's hung, walks away later. Anything can it could have been. You can't take it. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. You can't read the Bible and say that every single word's true. You can take its symbology. That's all you can do. Unless if you can find solid evidence, which isn't possible now. There's been too much time, too much erosion.
In my debates with Muslim professors, if I were to ever say, Muhammad never lived, he's just a symbol, do you think that's intellectually honest?
Good. I'm not familiar with the Muslim religion. I can't say anything about it.
You don't know whether Muhammad was an historical person or not?
He could have been. He could have been a symbol. I don't know. When they say that he rose from the dead, how do you know they don't just mean that he went to heaven?
Because in their records, they record how Jesus Christ appeared risen from the dead to his skeptical followers, and they thought they were hallucinating. And he walks up to them and says, grab hold and see. A spirit does not have flesh and bone the way you see I have. Which means those authors are either lying through their teeth or else they're speaking the truth. Because they're claiming very clearly this was an historical resurrection. The Jesus who died on a cross, we saw him, grabbed hold of him, ate food with him, and watched him eat food.
I haven't seen this, but I've read online that there's in Tibet, with the things that they have there, they have records of people that died, and as they were dying, they did some ceremony, and they would actually see some soul-like energy coming from the body and going into the air.
You bet. And who am I to question that experience of those people in Tibet? But the resurrection of Christ is totally different. Because the resurrection of Christ is a physical, bodily death, burial, and then physical, corporal resurrection.
His corpse came out of the ground.
You got it.
Where does it say that?
Luke chapter 24, John chapter 20 and 21, Matthew chapter 27 and 28.
His physical body came out of the tomb.
His physical body came out of the tomb. He was risen physically from the dead. The Roman historians Tacitus, Suetonius, and Pliny the Younger write things that corroborate details of the New Testament. I think the evidence is that Jesus was born in late 5 BC or early 4 BC. How do we know that? Because we know that Herod was king. Well, Herod died in late 4 BC. So I think the monk who put together our calendar was a little off in his timing, and Christ was probably born